You are listening to the 100th episode of the History Boys.
Yeah. Where does the time go?
You know? I don't know.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah, 100, guys.
That's crazy.
And I've been here for every fucking one of them.
Me too?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. Have I? Yes, I have.
Well,
have I? Yeah. Yeah, you have been.
Yeah,
you
we're the only two.
Technically host every time.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
I hosted one, and you hosted 99.
Yes.
Does the Team Which One count as you hosting? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm 98.
I guess you did. You were kind of interviewing Teamish.
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay. You did 99, and I did 1.
That's even.
So, and I'm in second place for host. Yeah. Oh, I don't think I said my name. I'm Christopher Whedon.
Indeed.
And I'm a centennial history boy.
Nice.
We've been doing this for 100 years. Started the same year as Disney.
Yeah.
And I'm Maddie Moon, and I am I was trying to think of how many episodes I've done, and
like 4 or 5.
4 or 5? There's no number for that. It's just 5.
Yeah. No one gives a fuck.
There's no Jubilee, platinum Jubilee number for 5.
Yeah.
I'm just a history boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And I am.
Who's that?
Wait, who's that?
What?
Someone just what? Who?
Somebody just walked in. Yeah.
And
who do we have?
Yeah, and I am returning for this momentous occasion. Long time listener, first time caller, Tyler.
Long time caller, first time.
Yeah, long time caller.
Listener and then caller.
Short time listener, now caller again. I'm Tyler. I'm a history. Tyler, I'm a history boy.
But I watched you die.
Yeah.
I watched you die. When we murdered you and buried you in Zach's backyard.
You should have killed me while you had the chance.
Yeah.
It's the sequel.
Yeah, no corpse, no death.
We saw you fall off that cliff into the
mist.
Into the mist.
He somehow made it out of the mist.
He's dead for sure.
Yeah.
Nobody comes out of those mists.
Yeah. At the end of the movie, you just see this rock with the waves crashing over it, and a hand appears on the rock.
Yeah.
And it's dun dun dun.
Font.
Yeah.
A question mark.
Yeah. The end drips across the screen.
And that was Tyler's death.
Yeah.
Turns out I was washed downstream. I fell down a couple of waterfalls, and then I was found by some indigenous tribes people who did a bizarre ritual that is pretty normal for them, but weird for me. And
have you learned their language, and are you living with them now, or?
No, they kicked me out pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
Because of your transgressions.
Because of your transgressions.
You couldn't pass the test to become a man, so they kicked you out.
Yeah. 24 minutes into my 3-day fast vision quest.
Yeah.
And then also, I'd asked for the Wi-Fi password, and when they looked at me like, we don't have Wi-Fi here, I would just ask what the Wi-Fi password was again, but slower and louder.
Yeah, they didn't appreciate it.
The Wi-Fi password, stupid.
They took offense. They were like, dude, we saved your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they taught you how to teleport.
Yeah, we're it's kind of a remote area. I'm sorry, no one has Wi-Fi, not even us, so...
Yeah. There's one guy with satellite, he ain't sharing. He's a
yeah. Well, anyway, I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy as always. Thank you so much for listening on this 100th episode of the History Boys.
Yay. And it's a special one.
It is a special one.
To me, also, and in general.
Yes. It is special because it is our 100th episode. We wanted to pick a special subject to do for this episode. We chose this episode, the Battle of Iwo Jima in World War II. The reason why we picked this episode is because...
my grandfather fought in that battle.
Yes, he survived.
Yeah, absolutely. Survived to 92.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to him any about it. He didn't really talk about the war much until, I guess, later in his life when he started talking to it, and one of my biggest regrets is not actually having those conversations with him. But I wasn't really all that close to him, so...
Sure. Well, if he hadn't have survived, he wouldn't be here today, right?
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we lost that battle, maybe I would never have been born.
Or if simply he just got killed at this battle, like so many people did get killed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Just think about how many color commentary co-hosts for indie history podcasts there would have been if more of those guys made it home.
There'd be even more. Yeah. You think there's a lot of podcasts now?
Yeah. Oh, there would have been.
Not a single American soldier died. It was a bloodbath for everyone else.
So,
And a lot of grandpas with quiet, like strangely quiet second wives that are Japanese.
So that was really common in the Korean War too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very common. So the way that I did a lot of work for this episode, gang. I used my Ancestry account to basically look up your grandfather's military records.
Yeah, you're gonna be telling me stuff about my grandpa.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I don't
tell
know
you
shit.
about it.
Let me tell you about your grandpa, Chris.
Well,
So I kind of wanted to tell this story because I mean this story's been told a million times. I wanted to tell this one as much as I could from the information I can gather from sort of your grandfather's point of view.
Sure, yeah.
should we
Right.
tell him that his grandfather, after returning from the war, became the original Night Stalker?
Yeah, he was the Zodiac. No.
When was that? The
Found
60s?
yeah.
He would have been, yeah.
You've been the right age.
Should have been like 40s, I
Just
think.
coming out of the war.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Really love puzzles too. Wait a second.
Yeah. Well, Iwo Jima literally means Sulphur Island.
Mm.
Okay, it is a volcanic island located 660 miles from Japan and didn't even appear on most maps before World War II. It was that obscure,
Yeah.
right?
It's not really, do people live there? It's not.
Not really.
It's too volcanic.
There were, you can't really grow anything
Some
there.
rocky bullshit.
There's not a lot of vegetation in the volcanic ash that blankets. The whole place is made of this volcanic ash.
Mm.
So there were sort of people living there prior to this, but now we'll kind of get there, but not really. It wasn't really populated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for its airstrips and its proximity to mainland Japan, it was a strategic position during World War II in the Pacific Theater, because basically if they tried to bomb mainland Japan, well, Iwo Jima was a warning system.
Yeah.
When they got there, they'd just get shot up. You know what I mean? They'd know an hour ahead of time that
Yeah.
they were going to
Off
show
the
up.
pass.
Exactly, yeah. And, also it could be, if they did get shot up, it would be a nice place for them to land and maybe get fixed or whatever.
Yeah.
So they didn't have
It's
to
very
bail out.
strategic, yeah.
It was very
In a
strategic.
strangely uncharacteristic move for the Japanese Air Force, they would land the planes.
You'd be surprised. The Japanese side of this battle, I'm going to touch on it, but that's its own episode, really.
Yeah.
That's a harrowing story, really.
The next episode's going to be the viewpoint from another guy's grandpa.
Yeah, different grandpa.
Japanese guy's grandpa.
Yeah.
In our new series, From Zeros to Heroes.
The grandpa hour. I don't know.
The World
We're
War II
workshopping.
Pow.
We're workshopping the name still.
For some reason, nobody's listening to Fox News anymore because they're all busy listening to our podcast.
Yeah, the grandpa hour. Yeah. Now, the top military brass in the United States military thought that this island could be taken in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
In 3 days.
Easy peasy.
They were wrong. They didn't know how wrong, really, up until they landed on the beach. That's when everything went to shit.
Fuck.
Yeah.
It sounds like beach is a generous term for it.
It's a generous term, and we'll get in there. We'll
Some
get
rocky
into that.
crags and shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's this
Not a great
really
vacation
fine.
spot.
It's ash,
Yeah.
mixed with sand. It's really fine. A lot of these, because I watched a bunch of interviews with all these old timers talking about it, and they talked about it was like coffee grounds. It was this really fun. You couldn't dig in it. You couldn't do anything with it. So, when you're trying to get in holes and stuff, when you're being shot at, it's impossible to dig it.
Yeah.
You're
not digging trenches in this shit.
No.
I spent a week in that quote-unquote sand, and I had one discovery. My skin was perfectly exfoliated. So when I came back to the mainland, I made soap.
Yeah. Well, Robert Whedon was born on December 21st, 1924, to Aziel. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Aisel.
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 Okay. They called him Ace.
Yeah, Ace.
That's pretty cool.
That's dope.
Is that badass? Ace.
Yeah.
Ace Whedon. Yeah.
Ace Whedon.
His wife, I guess, this is according to my dad.
His wife Verona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'd yell at him and say his name in a way that made it sound like asshole. Be like, "Hey, asshole!"
Yeah.
Asshole.
Asshole.
Asshole. You know,
I like it.
he was an asshole.
Yeah. It's some ribbon.
Yeah, got him good. The fucking
Yeah.
prick.
I'd say it's a blue ribbon.
Well, he was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, South Jordan, to be exact about it. And according to his draft card that he had to fill out when he turned 18, he was working for the United States Train Depot in Salt Lake City for the Union Pacific Railroad when he was 18 and had to register for the draft. He actually registered for the draft a couple of days after he turned 18, December 29th, 1942. Right, a couple of days after he turned 18. And then, on January 15th, 1943, like a month later, not even a month later, he enlisted.
Right.
With the Marines. Probably because he wanted to avoid the draft. I'm only guessing, but probably because
he definitely listed himself. But I know that, I mean, in that time, that was they viewed wars a little differently than we do now.
Well, like a lot of young men of his time.
It was like, if you were home, like that, if a young man was home, it'd be like, why is he still? Like, they wanted to go out. They wanted to, like, they were actually fighting what they perceived as, and in many cases, accurately, a great evil, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like after 9/11, if there was a draft, this fucking country would have burnt to the ground.
Right. Well, and, you know, to avoid the draft, you at least had some say.
If you enlist, you can choose. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what, the benefit would be, but I figured it was something like that.
Yeah, so that's
you have
a lot
some
of times
say. Not a lot of say, but some say.
And like
join the Air Force or something like that.
Oh, right. Okay.
Air Force didn't necessarily exist.
Oh, maybe. Oh, that may be right. I'm just. I know in more modern, like Nam, that was a common.
Yeah.
You get to pick like what.
Yeah.
There's the Army.
You got a little more
Air
say
Force.
if you enlist rather than if you draft.
Yeah. You could be a man or join the chair force.
Yeah.
It's coming from a guy who had plenty of opportunities in post 9/11 America to join the military and chose not to.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
Same way. Yeah.
I turned 18 5 days after 9/11, so.
Yeah. Well, we're now in a place where the same war is sort of happening, and the sons of the people that fought in that war are now fighting in the same war. Crazy to think about. He attended boot camp at Camp Pendleton, California, from July 1st to July 31st, 1943. So he pretty much, I mean, right when 1943, turned, he enlisted and became a Marine that year.
Do we have anything on his stats? How'd he do?
Yeah.
Well, we do know that he was commissioned as a field music first class.
Oh.
The only one of his group to be field music. Now, what is field music?
Yeah.
He was a bugler.
He was a bit of a bugle boy.
Yeah, he was a Marine bugler.
Yeah. Unlike his grandson, who's a bit of a bungle boy. You know what I'm saying?
Is there anything in the file if he was a boogie woogie bugle boy?
Our company, babe.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they were blaring that stuff at this time.
Oh, yeah.
That was a stone cold hit.
They had 4 songs then.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
Yeah.
But they thought they fucking slapped.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If you never heard music before, which was invented 5 years before.
They're like, I'm gonna dance with a woman and marry her the next day.
Yeah. At the good old USO.
Yeah.
When I danced with her, that's when I know.
I was fucking that very night.
Yeah. Everybody talks in that transatlantic radio voice.
Yeah. It's like Gregory Peck.
Yeah. They slip in advertisements for cigarettes.
Even
Lucky Strike cigarettes. The only cigarette I ever smoke.
Casual conversation.
Yeah.
I was watching a charade with Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn. It was really weird.
You mean Cary Grant?
It was Cary Grant.
Yeah.
Gregory Peck is...
That would have been a different movie.
No, that's... Gregory Peck was in...
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes, but he was in... Roman Holiday.
Yes.
Roman Holiday is what I'm thinking of, not charade.
Roman Holiday.
Roman
I
Holiday.
can see how you would get those two mixed up.
Yeah, one's in black and white.
Yeah. One is
in Roman Holiday, and they're both like striking leading men, right? They got a lot going on. Gregory Peck turns to the camera mid Roman Holiday and starts selling cigarettes. It was very strange.
Yeah. I wish I could do a Gregory Peck impression, but I can't. I'm not gonna try.
He's great.
Don't try.
So I felt like that was interesting. Like field music first class. That's pretty cool.
I never seen a bugle before. I honestly am looking it up right now because I didn't never heard of it.
Yeah, and
A
so
trumpet with no buttons?
there's no buttons.
it's all amateur. It's all amateur
Yeah.
with your lips. You change the pitch with your lips. So yeah, when they would do reveille and stuff, his grandpa would do reveille at
so he had some lungs on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
You had
Yeah,
to.
it's most of your. That's
Yeah, and then
crazy.
taps at the end of the day. You know,
Yeah.
They need
Yeah.
to bring that back. You can get one for
They still do
$30
it.
on Amazon.
they still do it.
It's called military emergency. Oh, right, because that's what they would. Oh my gosh, it's all coming
Well,
together.
and way back in the day, that's how they would sort of pass orders to each other.
Yeah.
Like groups
Right.
of they by bugle. Oh, he's doing this bugle call. Okay, we need to do this.
Oh,
Right?
wow. It seems like a very important.
It was at one time before the radio. It was
Yeah.
important.
It was the radio before the radio.
Exactly.
Now they had radios in World War II. But
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
More expansive.
Yeah.
They had potatoes in them.
They're made potato-powered radios.
Yeah.
There's like wires stuck into a potato. Like, can you hear me?
The same
No.
potato that he had been.
Grab a potato and get on the market.
Well, I am standing right here.
Crown potato. Crown potato to main base.
Yeah.
Main potato.
Yeah. Well, he was assigned to the 4th Marine Division, to the 14th Marine Regiment, and to the 4th Battalion of the 14th
Yeah.
Regiment, right? Breaks down in that way, right?
Yeah. 14-4.
Yeah. Now, the 14th Regiment is a battalion, is a artillery regiment.
The fighting 14th.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yes.
think that's, yeah. He was assigned to Battery M. Mike Battery is what they called it. So, Mike Battery to the 14th Marines in the 4th Battalion. Anyway, there you go. His executive officer was Lieutenant Colonel Carl A. Youngdale. And then the guy just below him was Major Roland J. Spritzen. And these guys will come up later.
Sounds German. Don't care for him. He's probably taking everything back to the Kaiser, who is very old at this point.
Yeah, right.
And dead.
Yeah. Didn't make a lot of difference. His loyalties, anyway. They would train on like direct support artillery, right? So if there's like a group of like foot troops, you shoot the artillery in front of them so they can move up, right? You know, that's how it works. And it works great as long as there's not another, group of foot soldiers that don't know where you're shooting. Sometimes you can hit your own guys. And sometimes it happened.
Friendly fire.
Yeah, it happened on
Friendly
Iwo
fire's on.
multiple times.
Yeah, they had friendly fire on for the war.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't know you could turn it off yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's right here.
Just gotta go in the settings.
Yeah, go in the
Under
settings.
gameplay.
They didn't figure that shit
You have it on
after
hardcore
Nom,
mode.
So.
Yeah.
They definitely had it on hardcore mode.
Yeah, if you die, the game's over. You know?
Yeah, that's it.
Deletes your save.
Yeah.
If you die in here, you die in the real world.
If you die in World War II, you die.
You die in the real world. Jesus.
Yep.
That's only if Morpheus is your drill surgeon.
Yeah.
No.
Now, the 4th Battalion, they had two different kinds of artillery pieces. The first one, which is the most common, is the 75 millimeter pack howitzer. These things weighed 1,379 pounds, and they could easily be taken apart and easily moved, right? Pack howitzer,
Wow.
That was its main strength.
So you got a bunch of guys, they come in with pieces, they put it together, boom, 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 then they gotta move it, take it apart,
Yeah.
put it somewhere else.
Yeah. And it has like wheels on them and stuff. It's the real small one.
Yeah.
And this they called it Little Dynamite. And this thing could lob a 14.7 pound high explosive shell 9,600 yards at 1,250 feet per second.
That's a lot of numbers.
It's a lot of numbers. It could fire basically a 15-pound shell real fast, about almost 10,000 yards.
I'm looking at
That's an
pictures,
effective
something like
That's
that.
like.
30,000.
Yep, that's- well,
35,000.
That's a
no,
little more modern.
I was thinking
That is the bigger
fucking
one we're gonna talk
football
Oh, okay.
field.
So it's smaller than
It's
that.
like 100 yards. What's that divided by 100 yards? 100?
I don't know. I'm American. That's 45,000 hamburgers.
Yeah,
Like, we don't measure any. We
9,600
don't measure
yards.
anything. We're like, how many Olympic swimming pools is that?
Yeah. That's a that's a bunch of
It's like
football
70 feet.
fields.
But how many
What's
Sears
the-
towers end there?
It's a bunch of football fields, guys.
Yeah.
It's, like 100.
And it was easy to move, easy to camouflage, those kind of things, right? The one that Robert Whedon was in used the 105 millimeter howitzer.
Oh.
The M101A1 is what it was called. This weighed something like 4,250 pounds. Much bigger.
Not as easy.
Wow.
Not as easy to move. Yeah. Now those were some of the most popular artillery pieces ever made, ever constructed. They've been used in every conflict since World War II up to the Russo-Ukrainian War of today.
Oh, wow.
Still being used. These artillery pieces.
Must have worked pretty well.
Yeah, and exported all over the globe.
How did that happen?
Right.
Well, you make them easy to pack up.
Yeah. I think it was used in 46.
You made 'em easy to
46 countries. This sucker. This has been used in.
They
Right.
sent them in 1,000 Amazon packages.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this thing could shoot a 33-pound high explosive shell, 12,250 yards at 1,550 feet per second.
Good lord.
Yeah.
So slower.
Well,
But a little
not
longer.
well, still faster, but not that much faster.
Right.
When you get
And
hardware like
further.
that, the 3-day thing doesn't seem that far.
They're like, yeah, we can tear through
One of
this
these guys got a
town.
bunch of ninja
Yeah.
sword katana blades. We got this. Come on, boys. Let's go get them.
And it could fire roughly 8 shells per minute.
Oh my God.
Minute.
Wow,
And that's
that's
if they're really clicking. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Not,
Because they gotta, like, reload, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
drop that in the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And a team of 8 men managed a battery, right? And they would load in the shell into the breach, and then they'd close it, you know? And then they would all get back and put their hands over their ears, because they don't have hearing protection at this time.
Jesus.
And they'd pull a cord, this thing, like, there's these legs that go out behind it. You've probably seen these. And they have, like, these, like, spades on the end that dig into the ground. And then this really complex but sort of fascinating hydraulic system to handle the recoil, right?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
It's really interesting the way it works. And yeah, you'd pull the cord and then it would fire, and then ka-chunk, the shell would come out, and you load one back, and you just work like that.
Yeah.
They didn't always have like the ammunition to fire that much at once, but that's what was possible,
Yeah.
right? If
You
you're
gotta get the
really working.
ammunition.
I'm looking at a picture of it
Yeah.
now, and
So
you
did
can
they
see
just-
the... Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
You can
Yeah.
see the hydraulics on the side there.
Yep.
And the,
Well, yeah.
the spade things in the
Yep.
back you're talking about.
Yep. And see, like, look at the barrel. You see those, like, tubes on the top and lower sections of the barrel?
Yeah.
Those are hydraulic systems to absorb
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
to absorb the recoil. Yeah, so we trained with all of this stuff. As far as I can tell, I did some looking around. If you know, dear listener, let us know. I want to say, as field music, that Robert Whedon was probably on the radio or locating, coordinates to where to fire, right? I think that was his job within the battery, but I don't really know. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't really know what his job would have been within the battery.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
thought he
if-
just
if you
let it
know,
rip
let
on
us
that
know.
Bugle and the body started flying. He's like, 2, 3, 4, boys. Keeping the rhythm.
Yeah. He plays some like
Anything goes.
yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
It was before the Geneva Convention, so
Yeah, yeah.
anything did go.
This is after the Geneva
I know.
Convention.
Yeah, that's true.
I know. By the way, I do want to let you guys know that Robert Whedon and his whole battalion and everything, they did see action on Saipan and Tinian before they got to Iwo, but those are separate stories entirely.
Right.
We don't have the time to go into those. Now, Iwo was different. I won't say worse or better, but everyone that I could find that also saw action on Tinian and Saipan, no matter where they were from in the Marines, they all said Iwo was worse. Every single one of them said that, no matter what they were doing. So I'm going to take their word for it. They were there, so I don't know if that was true for everyone, because everyone, had a different job and whatnot, but as far as most of these guys say, that was true. Probably true for artillery as well. When they did make the crossing, they went to Hawaii first. They had to, train and do some other stuff. They would go to, Saipan and then go back to Hawaii and retrain. That kind of thing. That's how it kind of worked, right? And they would move on an LST, a landing ship tank. Basically, it's a really big landing craft that you can pull your 105 millimeter guns out of.
Was this like on the ocean?
Yeah, on the ocean. Yep. And on their way over, it was actually super choppy.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really bad storm that they went through. Yeah.
So like the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, but bigger boat.
So the boats that they're on in Saving Private Ryan, those are called Higgins boats.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Whedon would have been on an LST.
Yeah. So bigger.
Yeah.
Way bigger.
Oh, way
Does that
bigger.
have the same thing where it comes down?
Yeah, it's just way bigger, right?
I know that...
they put tanks in there,
yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, my dad was... I don't know if this is time to mention it, but my dad talked to me about how his dad had told him stories about how, like, when his boat got there, he had to, like move over all these dead bodies that were already there.
Yeah.
So basically,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's seen Saving Private Ryan, if you haven't, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. It's great. It's fucking been out forever.
It's ubiquitous. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, go see it. It's that opening scene's brutal, too. It's hard to watch.
It's a really great opening scene followed by an okay movie.
Kind of, yeah.
That opening scene alone deserves the Oscar. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Mind-boggling the way they shot that.
What I was saying is, like, a thing comes down, and there's already bodies there.
Oh, yeah.
He's just having to run over them.
Well, and we'll get to... I know the exact time your grandfather got there.
I know. Maybe I should have brought that up.
Yeah. So we'll get there. On their way, though, they didn't know where they were going, by the way. They didn't tell them. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was called this ominous term. They were going to Island X.
Oh.
Yeah, they had no idea.
That's what they were calling Iwo Jima?
Yeah. They didn't know.
Island X.
And most people didn't know if they were going to Okinawa first or Iwo Jima first, right? Mm-hmm. So they chose at Iwo Jima first, then we're going to go to Okinawa, right?
Yeah.
They're like... We were going to Candy Apple.
Yeah.
There's giant apes. There's not as many.
I was stationed at Candy Apple Island. It was a bloodbath. We didn't see it coming. We thought it would be a cakewalk, literally.
Yeah, and it wasn't. Yeah. No, something I found really interesting. I found the 14th Regiment's history, like their whole history. Mm-hmm. Something that was in there that piqued my interest was when they crossed the international date line. I guess it's a tradition in, I think, the Navy or Marines or maybe both, that they do this thing, and they what they call it is they enter the domain of the Golden Dragon.
Oh,
what?
Yeah, and if you're doing it for the first time, there's hazing rituals. If you have a mustache, they cut off one side of the mustache. They cut your hair in strange ways.
The Japanese are gonna think you look like an idiot.
Yeah. Pranks are pulled. They dress up. They have fun times. They
paddle each other on the bottom.
Yeah, they kiss the feet of Emperor Neptune, whoever they pick as Emperor Neptune.
They give each other kisses on the lips to prove how not gay they are.
And indeed, they dressed in drag.
Oh.
It's like a humorous sort of like ritual that they do.
What I like about that is like this is the generation.
This is the greatest generation.
Yeah, this is
right?
the generation that your conservatives are like, this is the one. These are the badasses.
Just drag all the time. It's funny for them, you know?
Well, they were dressing like a notorious groomer Bugs Bunny.
Well, it was definitely a part of morale, right? I don't know if this still continues. If you know about this, if this tradition still continues, let us know about this. historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to know if it still continues.
One of my friends who was in the army, when they had to go to Iraq, he said that they made a guy who just got out of basic drink laundry detergent. So
oh God,
the hazings are different.
Oh, within the branches, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's stuff that's at boot camp they don't really talk about.
I like good-timey, old-timey, kissing feet and drag shows.
Yeah.
And
his cigar blew up.
Yeah. Ha cha.
Yeah.
Shave your mustache.
And if I'm crossing the passage of the Golden Dragon, I better at least get even if it's just a prank, I better get an invitation to an enigmatic martial arts tournament.
Yep.
Where anything goes.
As was the style of it.
Yeah.
Now, Iwo Jima was seen by the Japanese as home soil. Like it was administered by the Tokyo municipality. You know what I mean? So there wasn't a lot of people that lived there. You know what I mean? There was a couple of people. You know what I mean? A small community lived there, but it wasn't like you could grow things there. You know, the vegetation on Iwo Jima was not really a lot.
It
you
was
know
Japanese
what I mean?
Alaska.
Well, yeah, in a lot of ways. No oil. You know?
Yeah.
Lots of vampires.
Can you build a car with salt? Or like run a car on sulfur?
Yeah.
That would help.
Yeah, that would help.
You can run a car on anything if you ask the hippies.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Good old fartmobile.
Fartmobile. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't care what it smells like, let's be honest.
They don't care what they smell like. They don't care what this car smells like.
Yeah.
No. Sulfurmobile. Now, the Naval Intelligence, like I said earlier, reported back that the black volcanic ash beaches of Iwo Jima would pose no issue, and that vehicles shouldn't have a problem making it over these beaches.
Right.
They were wrong.
Cut and
They
dry.
were very wrong.
They based that off of when they looked at it on Google Maps. They were like, yeah, it looks fine.
I mean, they looked at it from, months and months earlier, from, like, far away kind of a deal.
Right, yeah.
And, like, from
Yeah.
planes and stuff, like, that kind of thing.
Like,
They're
it's gonna be fine.
It's fine.
A blurry black and white photo that that Ken Burns was talking about.
Like, and you look closely in those photos, you can see Bigfoot. So, you know.
He's on our side.
He's sitting there slitting their throats and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Sending them in early, you know.
Yeah. He's got like a Rambo headband on.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, the guy that was tasked with fortifying Iwo Jima was General Tadamichi Kuribayashi. Right? He was an honest-to-goodness samurai. His whole family was samurais. He was a samurai. And that it's like an Eastern sort of like knights, type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Without really going too far in the weeds with it, So he had connections straight to the top, straight to Emperor Hirohito. You know what I mean? And like this ground was like hollowed ground, but it was also like at this point like their navy has kind of been decimated. It's looked upon as sort of a suicide mission to fortify this island. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they sent him down there because he had spent time in America. He knew, like, he had been quoted as saying, like, we shouldn't start war with America. They're gonna kick our ass, pretty much. And they were like, you're a defeatist, so that's why they sent him on the suicide mission, right? And he even told his family, this is very sad, he told his family, quote, "It must be destiny that we as a family must face this. Please accept this and stand tall with the children at your side. I will be with you always." End quote. He's the real deal, man. Yeah, he really is.
You hear that in a movie, and you're like, well, that character's gonna die.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
He knew.
The only way you'd know he was gonna die more if he did the other way, where he's like, so these are my kids back home.
Yeah, right.
This is my girl. I'm gonna ask her to marry me.
Yeah,
As soon as I get back.
My high school sweetheart.
Yeah. That guy's a fucking goner.
Yeah, here's a ring or something,
Yeah, you fucked that up.
I just bought a boat. I'm gonna start like my own company. Here's
Yeah.
how it's gonna run.
Yeah. It's gonna be shrimp.
It's gonna be shrimp.
Yeah. Now, some men that Kuribayashi pulled were handpicked from the divisions that took part in the brutal Manchurian campaign. This was, it was American propaganda, but at the same time, it was a brutal campaign. Ones that were, catching babies on bayonets, really brutal, horrific things that these guys took part in, but they were the most fervent troops that they had, the most hardened troops that they had.
They were Manchurian candidates.
Yeah. Bunch
Not
of
in that
Denzel
sense.
Washingtons.
Yeah, not in that sense.
Or Frank Sinatra.
Or Frank Sinatra's.
Yeah. I like to think he was more of a man on fire.
Ah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, I do.
Or of Ocean's 11.
Okay, yeah.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going Denzel. You're going Frank.
You're going modern remakes. Well, modern remakes. Those movies are like 20 years old. But
I think the first Ocean's 11 remake is probably like 20 years old. Right?
Yeah. The Manchurian Candidate's around that time, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Denzel one. Yeah.
The
Early
Denzel one, yeah.
2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came out.
It's not bad. It's pretty good. Jonathan Demme, right?
Yeah, it was Jonathan Demme.
Yeah. And so, like, the American troops had heard about the Manchurian campaign and knew that they were going to be fighting these guys.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Just some scary guys.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Kuribayashi, he had these pamphlets printed and distributed to his troops, and there are all these, like, ways of fighting the enemy, and, like, these guerrilla tactics to be carried out. But a main part of it was the courageous battle vows that everyone, you know, would recite and take to heart. Number 1, we shall defend this island with our strength to the end.
Okay.
Number 2, we shall fling ourselves against the enemy tanks, clutching explosives to destroy them.
Well, hold on.
Number 3, we shall slaughter the enemy, dashing in among them to kill them. Number 4,
Cool.
every one of our shots shall be on target and kill the enemy.
That's so.
We're save on ammo
Yeah.
if we do that.
Number 5, we shall not die until we have killed 10 of the enemy.
Or not at all.
It's hard to promise that, isn't
Well,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Number 6, we shall continue to harass the enemy with guerrilla tactics, even if only one of us remains alive.
Oh, that's badass.
It's
nothing
hardcore.
about getting VD, huh?
Yeah.
That's on the American side.
I like to think that that last one was supposed to be like, we'll continue to harass the enemy long after death.
Yeah,
As
right,
in
yeah. As ghosts.
Form.
Ghost form,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Japanese
their
ghosts are
ghost
fucking
happens.
scary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we know, you know, Shaggy served in the Marine Corps before he was a part
Yeah.
of the Mystery Incorporated.
Is that true?
Is that true?
No.
Oh, and I was like, and
was like-
Fred definitely dodged
that's-
the draft.
But that's why he's so scared of ghosts, you know?
Because it's hella they got a lot of ghosts on their side,
Yeah.
but at least we have Bigfoot
Trauma.
and Freddy Krueger
Yeah.
on our side.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna hunt the dreams.
Shaggy has a lot of PTSD war trauma.
That's why he smokes so much weed.
None of the
Yeah.
ghosts are real except for the ones of the people
Ones
that
of
you
the
saw
sun.
die.
Yeah. There's like it's like Apocalypse Now. And he's like, Scoob, I'm still in the jungle.
I don't know why it makes me think of Rowdy Piper on Always Sunny.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
Maniac loves you.
Maniac loves you, boys, even with feathers. What? There's another episode where he has a line where it's like, I don't fight in the ring anymore, but I keep fighting with the demons in the demaniac's head.
Yeah.
Rowdy Piper, may you rest in peace, by the way.
Yeah, he was
Let's see down a while ago.
beloved wrestler.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. He was in They Live, or is that?
Yeah, They Live.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. Anti-consumerist, anti-capitalist message, by
Mhm.
the way. Now, without mechanized tools, by the way, without like bulldozers and things like this, Kuribayashi set his men to work digging in the hot soil, tunneling, making miles, 11 to 12 miles, I guess, of tunnels underneath Iwo Jima. Now, when you dug in these tunnels, it was a sulfuric island, so it would be very hot. Like a lot of these soldiers that were there, like they were talking about like digging foxholes and stuff, and after a certain bit, you'd have to stop because of how hot the sand would become.
Mhm.
Like they talked about setting like cans of beans in like a hole they just dug, and coming back later, and the beans were cooked.
Yeah.
Delicious can of beans.
That shows you how hot it was. Now, they're really digging down in there, and they couldn't be in there for more than like a handful of minutes at a time before it'd be so hot that they'd have to get out.
Were these American beans or Japanese beans?
That'd be Japanese.
American beans.
Okay.
When they're doing the thing, you know.
Doesn't it? Well, what if it was like natto or something like that? You know?
Mhm.
If they're American forces, they have American beans.
Yeah, come on.
Well, I didn't know.
If they're Japanese
account
forces, they're
was talking
eating
about-
rationed
Yeah.
rice and like a rationed water.
Yeah.
Sulfur tainted water, by the way.
Mhm.
Oh God. Okay,
Yeah.
so they had to escape the tunnels because of the heat, but not because of the stank.
Yeah.
Right.
The heat's worse.
Even
Well, and
though
they-
it stank.
And they would cut these the holes in like the top to you know
Ventilate.
to vent ventilation holes. It didn't really help the
Stanky.
heat. It didn't really help the heat, but it helped enough where you could
It helps
stay
the
down
smell or
there.
the heat.
Neither really.
gonna be honest,
but
like,
it
as
helped enough.
I run hot as fuck, and I'm like, I can
Seems
handle
like a
stink.
nightmare.
I can handle stink all day, but too hot?
Too
No.
hot. Yeah.
No way.
Dude, and like some of these guys, they were down 90 feet in some places. 90 feet. I don't know how they fucking did it.
Dig down 90 feet.
Dig with like pickaxes and shit. Like they dug down in like their underwear. Like they dug in their underwear like minutes at a time, 90 feet, and like that's where like headquarters and stuff were, you know. So like being like a radio man down there, like all hours of the day, like just sweating
Stinky base.
down in the stinky hole. Like oh my god, that had to
CrossFit people
suck.
are like jotting down names right now.
Yeah. I do like
Iwo Jima, hot
Yeah.
sulfur.
I want to go
sweat.
back to the
Yeah.
fact that in the Hell episode that I did, one of the big points in Dante's Inferno, there's a major point in the story. I brought it up when we did that episode where they have to like hang out for a bit just to get adjusted to the smell in Hell.
Yeah, like the sulfur smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's so gross. I went to a hot spring one time and it just absolutely.
Rotten eggs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's like okay, I'm just going to a pool that smells disgusting. I might as
Yeah.
well just go to a pool where it smells like bleach, which at
Well,
least is better.
So growing up, there was this family above us. This is a small tangent. This family above us that owned like a section of the hot springs, and they like somehow filtered it and chlorinated it. So like they had like a pool that you could totally swim in and rent out and whatnot. That was from hot springs.
But you wouldn't want a chlorinator, right? Isn't the point of hot springs like all the minerals and
Well, they like
shit in it?
I don't. It was just to swim in, really. I'm not gonna go there to
need a
like
bunch of
cure my
healthy shit.
TB. You
Yeah.
know.
There, get it out of there. Put some chemicals in.
That healthy shit smells
Yeah.
awful.
It doesn't help tuberculosis.
I'm not gonna
So
open my eyes down there.
I'd rather smell bleach and chlorine than sulfur. I can
Me
tell
too.
you that
Me too.
right now.
yeah,
For
absolutely.
Sure.
Sulfur
Yeah.
is disgusting.
Good enough for the Olympics. It's good enough for me.
I think I have a weak sense of smell because when you're talking about the heat, that's what I'm like.
Dude,
Oh, I couldn't do the heat.
imagine that heat.
It's
The
too hot in
heat.
here.
And thinking about like, and thinking about how hot it is, and then it occurring to you that you're 90 feet below the ground.
Oh,
I would just
that-
like,
no claustrophobia. Yeah.
you know, I would panic.
Yeah.
You know.
I would just think about how skinny I was gonna be when I was
I feel like
Wearing like trash bags.
Yes.
smell goes away after a minute.
Oh,
or
oh,
two.
yeah.
It just if you just I don't know.
You get
Well,
used to it.
and a lot of these guys, they asked him about the smell on the island, and so many of them were like, I don't recall a smell, dude. I don't recall a
I
smell.
remember the sound.
Yeah, well, oh
Yeah.
yeah. I'll kind of get to that later, but like, they're like, I was dealing with so much shit, I don't even remember smelling anything. Some guys that like had to clean up later, like all the dead bodies and shit, they're like, oh yeah,
That's-
I remember
yeah,
the smell.
yeah.
Dead
Yeah.
bodies.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't farts.
No.
It was dead,
It was
decomposing
dead
bodies.
people.
Well,
Yeah.
like the smell of a rotting corpse versus that to me, that smell
Yeah.
is kind of the worst one.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
Yeah.
And like the bugs
Supposedly.
and all that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, of the like, you know, you ever have like a raccoon or a rat die in your wall, and you're like, fuck, it stinks.
Yeah.
No, how common is that?
Extremely
You
common.
just said that
Common.
like it was,
You've never dealt with that?
no.
Am I the only one?
Why would I have
I've
dealt with that?
dealt with like dead animals in places where you can't get them, and it's like, well,
No.
Yeah.
I've never dealt
Just
with that. I
don't
can
eat
do
next
that.
to the rat wall.
can we send the dog in there to drag
Eventually,
it
it
out?
rots enough that you don't smell it anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
Eventually, the maggots eat away at it.
That's exactly what it is. It's the
Yeah.
decomposition. It's the bacteria decomposition
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
stinks.
It's bacteria farts.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the bacteria farting.
Yeah,
That's
right.
actually true. That's a pretty accurate way of looking at it.
It probably is, yeah, exactly where the scent is.
It's those corpse farts that they...
Now this vast underground network, 11 to 12 miles, that went super deep into the island. It connected these strategically placed and extremely well camouflaged pillboxes. They were all over the island. They were placed in certain areas, layers of them upon layers of them, to basically create this impenetrable fields of interlocking fire, right? And they were so numerous, and there were, exit and entrance points into these tunnels were so numerous that you could pop out behind the army, or the force that's attacking you, and then disappear again, and then back and so like you could kind of pop out in all these other directions, right? Like you could way Scooby-Doo it, so
The next thing you know, they're all playing in a band.
yeah, right. Yeah. This would also allow them for like nighttime raids too. Like it wasn't safe at night, and like somebody even said, like, you couldn't drop a stick on Iwo without drawing artillery fire. Like, with them being like, huh? Over there! Boom, boom, boom! You know?
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah. It was hardcore, you know, and they were really hard to see. Now, they also hid hundreds of hidden artillery and mortar positions, along with numerous landmines all over the island. And by the way, the most deadly thing in the entire engagement was the mortars. Mortar fire killed and maimed most people. Most casualties were from mortars.
And out of those casualties, most of them were friendly fire.
It wasn't unheard of.
Yeah.
It wasn't unheard of. It did happen. Now, among their weapons, like, they were short food and potable water, but they had a fuck ton of, like, rockets. Like, these new rockets that they made, and artillery shells, and most importantly, grenades. They had a fuck ton of grenades.
The Japanese did?
The Japanese did. Yeah. Like, a lot of that shit, you know what I mean? But, like, their guns weren't as great as, like, the M1 Garand, you know, like, things like that, you know?
Yeah, because they manufactured all of their stuff themselves.
And beforehand.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when Manchuria was first being attacked,
Yeah.
right? So, like, they were still operating with, like, these different guns, right? Don't really have time to get into it, but yeah. Now, this idea of sort of abandoning the beach defense, you know, meet them on the beaches, it flew in the face of the Bushido sort of you know, pride. You know what I mean? Like, no, you meet them on the beach. This is Bushido, you know, kind of a deal. And he's like, no, dude, I'm trying to dig in and last as long as I can. This is a suicide mission. You know what I mean?
None of these motherfuckers are gonna bow before they fight.
Yeah. And like the last shipment that made it to Iwo Jima of quote-unquote weapons, they handed them a bunch of bamboo spears. And they were like, are you fucking kidding me? Bamboo spears? Like, they're gonna kick our ass, you know?
So it's come to this.
Yeah, that's what a lot of them thought. They were like, oh my god. And especially when, like, the Navy showed up, they were like, their Navy must be huge, and our Navy must be gone. You know what I mean? Crazy shit. Crazy shit. Now, this island, Kuribayashi's force, it was manned by 20, give or take 20,000 of Japan's cream of the crop, pretty much. That's a good way to think of it. They had a large number of anti-tank equipment as well, because they knew that the Americans were going to be landing tanks. And yeah, like I said, artillery shells, grenades. But yeah, they were rationing to like a half a cup of water a day, with sulfur in it, and like a small thing of rice, even before the Americans showed up. You know what I mean? It was too dangerous for them to bring in more supplies.
Fight hungry.
Yeah, yeah, but they did. They somehow still held out.
Maybe that makes you better.
Because you're hungry
yeah.
in battle.
There might be something to that. There might be something
you're like,
to that.
I'll kill anyone for fucking
Yeah.
Maybe he's
Get
got
this
rations
over with.
on him.
I don't know. I get all weak and shaky.
There might be
I don't know
something
about
to
you
that.
guys.
I get weak and shaky too.
Yeah.
They were made of better stuff.
There's a threshold
Yeah.
that you pass. That's
I feel like my...
These
yeah,
are like
my-
19-year-old kids. Let's also keep in mind.
Yeah. I feel like my
Oh,
threshold
yeah.
has just always been so low. Like, I get weak and shaky every single day.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Angry.
I think, yeah.
That is not normal.
No, I don't think it is.
I would hate that.
If I can't go like 4 hours without
Yeah.
eating.
Yeah.
I just can't. It's just no way.
Now, by the time the United States Navy and Marines did show up, Iwo Jima was the strongest island fortress in the world.
Whew.
It had 2 airstrips that were on it, if you want to call it airstrips, and a third one being constructed that they never finished.
It's like when I shave my own pubes. I do my own manscaping.
The air.
I call it an airstrip.
Hell yeah, dude.
And even while the fighting was still going on, like, damaged B-29s, those super fortresses,
Yeah.
like, one of them came in on its belly. That must have been something to see.
Oh my
Like,
God.
Or,
that's
like,
insane.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah,
to be
that
in.
That's
must
like
have
a
been something
movie.
to see. Yeah, yeah. And,
Straight
like,
up.
there's still, like, you know, mortars and machine guns going off. Like, they barely have that one, airstrip, taken. We'll kind of get there, though.
How much time did they have to like prepare all this? Like, how much time did they have to build like 2 airstrips?
So, basically, it's from
All these tunnels.
October to February.
Wow, that's like no time.
It's no time at all. It shows you how
They had to ship
remarkable...
all the materials there and
Yeah.
like to build the airstrips. I don't know. What
It's remarkable.
That's crazy.
It's truly remarkable. Like, yeah, they got off boats to be there, then built the airstrips, then they could bring in stuff via air.
Just like a few months, and they had like no food on top of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And they're losing the war, you know. They didn't know totally that yet. Like,
Right.
so.
Well, you don't want to hear that when you're in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, positivity.
Yeah.
Well, and that
all
was
about
very
positivity.
important. Yeah, to
Yeah.
to tamp down on the news, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, turn off your phones.
Not a phone in sight. Just living in the moment.
Taking your sulfur hole.
People just 90 feet down in a sulfur hole, sweating their asses off, drinking their half a cup of water.
Painted water.
Good
The,
old
like,
days.
handful of rice.
Yeah.
You know?
They don't care about how many likes they get.
Yeah, right.
You know, kids these days and their likes. And
Yeah.
And their Tic Tacs.
Yeah, so much better back then.
Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah. Now, starting on June 15th, 1944, the United States Navy and United States Army Air Forces began bombardments of Iwo Jima. Like, they started flying planes over and, like, strafing them and bombing the fuck out of them up until February. Like, it continued up until February.
Did that work at all?
Not really. It was ineffectual. Now, they had wounded, of course, you know, things like that happened. And what's really interesting, this is really a story for another day, but what's really interesting is deep down in these tunnels, they had, you know, hospitals, you know, and then
Oh, like
a morgue.
underground?
Yeah,
Wow.
and then a morgue.
Crazy.
They had a pit in these, in the tunnels, underground.
inside the pit.
Yeah, where they would just stack dead bodies. You know,
Wow, yeah.
it's hardcore. Like,
Do these tunnels still exist? Like, can you
yeah.
go there and like,
some of
see
them,
some of them?
some of them
Right,
do,
I
not
imagine
all of them.
are not. Yeah, some of them. Sure
You'll kind of realize why some of them aren't there anymore.
Right, yeah.
But
Crazy.
yeah, in fact, one of the people on one of these, you know, strafing bombing missions was shot down over Iwo Jima and had to be rescued, and that was President George H.W. Bush before he was president. So there you go.
Things would have
he was
been better if
involved.
you weren't safe.
Free President H.W.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Freezing. Yeah.
Sure.
That should be the actual term.
Yeah.
President.
You're talking about.
You can only be a president. You can only be referred to as president if you've been president.
Well, they
Yeah.
talk about
And then
events that
president?
happened before you were president.
Yeah. Then you're president.
That's president. Like,
That's why they call it present.
yeah, like Donald Trump raped his ex-wife when he was president.
He was raping his ex-wife
Yeah.
and showing up in Home Alone 2 Lost in New York when he was president.
And in the same day, which is people don't know that.
Yeah.
Busy
That's,
guy.
that's a lot of work for a
Well, he's a
president.
businessman.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Robert Whedon spent his 19th birthday retraining in Hawaii, which
Right.
must have been kind of cool.
Yeah, pretty nice.
They talked about like tattoo parlors and stuff that was in Maui. I wonder if your grandfather had any
I
tattoos.
don't know.
or
That'd be
something
pretty
like that.
cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool to.
You might have
you
like
know.
the fighting flying fish or whatever it was, like from The Simpsons.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I do kind of picture my grandpa as being like Grandpa Simpson.
Yeah, he has like an anchor on him somewhere.
Yeah.
He's not Navy,
Like a
but
nuke with a babe.
Yeah, a pin of
Riding
breast
a nuke.
straddling a nuke.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the tattoo. I should get like a nuclear explosion, not the bomb.
an
The
explosion.
explosion and a babe in front of it.
The mushroom.
In front
cloud.
of it.
I thought
Yeah.
she'd be straddling it like, ooh.
No, you're
She's
that.
riding the mushroom
Like
cloud.
a hot breeze.
She's riding the mushroom.
It's
cloud.
very
I'm saying?
suggestive. If
Yeah,
you know
It's
what
blowing her
Yeah.
skirt up.
It's a reverse squeak.
It's sucking in the nuclear fallout into her vagina. She's a lifesaver.
Yeah. She's
gonna
the
give
answer.
birth to Hulk baby. Created mythology.
Well, him and pretty much everyone else in the 5th, 3rd, and 4th Marine Divisions, when they took them out of Hawaii or from wherever they were at this time, they were like, all right, we're going. And they're like, where are we going? They didn't know where they were going. They didn't tell them where they were going. All they told them is that they were going to this place that was ominously named Island X.
Oh
Professor
Very ominous.
X.
no.
Island.
Thus the Powerpuff Girls were born.
Is that Chemical X?
Oh, yeah.
Professor X is X-Men.
Yeah.
Wait.
But the professor is the one who spilled chemicals.
Yeah, but he's not Professor X.
So would you say
No.
that like the guys going to Island X were like Task Force X?
No. No.
I would.
They couldn't
like-
say it.
You're saying
They
that these
couldn't
guys
say
are some kind of Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
They
That's
just
DC.
couldn't say it. You know.
That's like
just
a
so
common
secretive.
thing.
My grandpa was Wolverine, is what.
Obviously. And that's a common thing in the military,
Mhm.
right? They don't tell you where you're going.
Yeah.
It's like
Security.
pretty normal, yeah.
You need to know basis, and you don't need to.
Granted, I don't know if they always say Island X is where you're going, or
Yeah,
make up
yeah.
some
That's pretty
crazy
metal.
ass name.
Yeah, it's pretty metal. Yeah.
But sir, that could be any island in the world, sir.
And I don't know if I said before, but yeah, he made the crossing on an LST,
Yeah.
not on like one of these bigger boats or whatever.
And that is what is
landing
that?
landing
Oh.
ship tank.
I thought it was some sort of like
I think we talked
small
about it
business, like a small business loan.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
Like I'm getting an LST.
Yeah, it sounds like LLC, which is not
Loan-
that.
Loan
Loan
Small.
small
Liability
Loan service
ship.
tax.
limited.
taxes.
Yeah.
Loan service.
Limited service taxation.
I don't know why we're spending so much time on this guy.
Yeah, this is the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life, and I've had some doozies.
I wish you cut this hour.
It's going.
There's going to be some editing.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, this was called Operation Detachment. And the whole thing, the 3 days to take the island, the whole thing was expected to take about a week.
Yeah.
About a week. They had
Detachment, much like that generation would be towards their grandchildren.
after this event. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a really good joke, Chris.
Yeah.
It's a pretty
Tyler never said anything.
Yeah,
that
good
point.
job. Good job, Chris. You did a really good job making up that joke all by
Yeah.
yourself. That was
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
yeah.
guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That was solid.
It's good.
Solid gold. Again from Chris Wheat.
Yep. Again, just so you know. The originator of that joke.
The originator. Just sorry.
Yeah.
Turns
Turns out trauma is really fucks you up.
Yeah. Generational trauma.
Makes you
Yeah.
distant to your family. Now, this whole thing, with Navy and Marines included, everyone involved, it'd be over 100,000 American forces in over 500 ships that would show up at Iwo Jima.
Mm-hmm.
From the defenders, they were like, oh, God, their Navy must be fucking huge, and ours must just be gone,
It's a 5-to-1 difference. Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, do the math.
Yeah.
Yeah, at home.
That's
Yeah,
why you have
folks.
Or
at
actually,
home.
don't do the math. We just did it for you.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they, you have to take 10 of them with you. You know what I mean?
Oh, they'll be fine then.
Yeah, right.
I mean, well, technically, they only have to take 5 of them, but don't tell them that.
If they take 10 of them each, they're gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Right. It's gonna be hard.
And as we know through history, they did, and
Yeah, and they won the war.
that's the reason why we all have to go pray to the Emperor now.
Hirohito Jr.
She like, shit, it's almost 5 o'clock. We gotta pray to the emperor.
Yeah. Face Tokyo. Now,
Which direction is Tokyo?
yeah, it's like Mecca. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's west. Here.
Technically, it's also east.
It's
Well, I
also
mean,
east.
It is. Yeah, it is west.
It's
Well,
west
if
to
we
us.
really wanted to do it right, I think we would
That
face
way.
east because that would be the direction of the rising sun.
Right.
Japan is the land of the rising sun. However, geographically speaking, for Washington State, you'd be facing west.
Mm-hmm.
So we
It's
have
true.
a perfect line of sight to the emperor.
Yeah, I wonder how that would work if they had won the war and we had to worship the emperor.
I don't know if the international date line would be reset to the middle of the Atlantic. That's an interesting question.
Let's take a break, watch
Finally,
all of Man in the
we
High
wanna be the
Castle,
last-
available on Amazon Prime, and then come back and finish
We'll
the
come back.
episode.
We'll reconvene. Yeah.
Well, to be honest,
no.
I thought this version was the Nazis lost, but the Japanese didn't.
Well,
Like,
if they're not, no,
We didn't drop the bomb.
all
Maybe
the
they
West,
won.
in Man in the High Castle, all the West Coast states, I think, ended up going to Japan.
Yeah.
But Japan ultimately answered to the Reich.
Yeah.
I think. I only watched the first 2
They're
seasons.
allies or something.
They took a big break between seasons, and I fell off.
Yeah, fuck that shit. I'm not watching that.
Plus, there was the guy who was Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat, the movie, the old one.
Yeah.
He's in there, and he has, like, the ability to, like, see our timeline, and I was like, oh, no, you guys are fucking it up.
No, you're fucking it up.
Yeah. I thought I just wanted alternate.
That's so stupid.
But I like that actor.
Yeah, me too.
He's
great.
He's an underused actor.
He's
like
gonna
that
see
guy.
that we got the MCU, and he's gonna be super jealous.
He's like,
Fuck!
And we lost!
And we have no anime?
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the commanders that was involved in this whole operation, Lieutenant General Holland M. Smith, a.k.a. Howlin' Mad Smith.
Oh.
Now, Howlin' Mad, like, go look up a picture of this guy. He's like a Kurt LeMay looking, sour-faced general type. You know, he looks like Howlin' Mad.
The biggest smile he ever made was just not a frown.
Yeah, it was an imperceptible, like, nod.
Yeah.
And that was him gushing.
It's the first time his jowls lifted slightly from the bottom of his face.
Yeah.
When he saw the eviscerated corpses of his enemies, he would chomp a cigar and say, "Outstanding!" And that's
I mean, you're probably not far off of the truth, my friend.
No, that probably literally.
He was definitely like the epitome of a Marine Corps general.
Yeah.
You know.
He was the very model of a modern Marine Corps general.
Thank you.
He was the bad guy from Avatar.
He was born on 420.
Kind of. Oh, same as Hitler.
I know.
Yeah.
That also is one.
Also Howlin' Matt Smith. Anyway, he requested the Navy shell Iwo Jima for 10 days straight, right? And the Navy was worried that they didn't have the ammunition to keep up 10 days of shelling with the rest of their duties. So what he ended up getting was 3 days of shelling.
Best thing give you is 3.
Yeah, and he was mad about this. He was very mad about this. But even the 3 days of shelling, and like everybody came up out of and watched the shelling, like the fireworks. Like the big boats like rock back and forth with like those big guns, and just eviscerate this island, you know what I mean? But any type of vegetation was gone after this 3 days of shelling.
Big morale booster if you're on one of those boats.
Oh yeah.
They're like, we did it, we won.
Oh yeah.
As long as they don't have tunnels they hit.
Yeah, the thing about it was ineffectual because of the tunnels that were miles long and just deep. Yeah. Again, they suffered casualties, but largely unaffected. It was ineffectual. And fun fact, one of the boats that participated in this operation was the USS Indianapolis, which of course would be famously sunk, and then the troops would have to deal with sharks. Yes, story for another day. Now, the night before, they decided that they would get a good meal before they went into battle, so they had steak and eggs. Such a man's man meal.
It's a man's meal.
It is.
I mean, is it? Because it's all protein. That's why
Yeah.
it's a
You
man's
gotta fight,
meal.
right?
Yeah, but everyone always says steak and potatoes is the man's man.
No, that's
And
America's
bacon.
family. Steak and potatoes is what you eat back at home.
Yeah. Potatoes would be
eggs
too
with
much
it.
weight. They gotta have these
Yeah, steak
powdered
and
eggs.
potatoes. is-
Powdered eggs.
Okay, hello. Have you been to the grocery store? You can powder potatoes too.
This is
seen
true.
it.
Actually, I think powdered potatoes are a World War II invention.
I would believe that.
I think
this
they
is
are.
just Maddie showing how Irish she is. It's like, wait, there's no potatoes?
Yeah.
She's showing all 3% of her Irish heritage.
Yeah. It's not that high. It's more England, but
Mine too.
I do love potatoes.
Well, who doesn't?
Me too.
They're the best.
You
And
can't
that's
fuck up
why-
a potato.
If I had to choose between powdered eggs and
Yeah.
potatoes, I'd choose potatoes.
Me too.
Powdered eggs and
Powdered
potatoes.
Yeah.
They have to be because I feel like if I were to choose between eggs and potatoes, and you could do anything with them, I'd pick eggs.
No.
And I'm the most Irish person here.
Really?
Really?
Oh,
I
definitely.
get
What if you could take
stomach
powdered
ache
eggs
with
and put
Do
it
you?
in a
eggs.
shape?
I don't get
of a
stomach
potato.
aches.
You
That'd be
get
difficult
weak
to do.
and shaky.
I just gotta eat. It doesn't matter what I eat. I don't really get stomach aches.
I get stomach aches all the time.
No, I can eat anything. It doesn't fucking matter.
Woman's stomach.
Yeah. I get diarrhea, but I get diarrhea all the time anyway.
See, okay, that's a heavy caveat.
I have diarrhea
Yeah.
all the time, but my stomach doesn't hurt. It feels great.
It doesn't hurt.
I have diarrhea every day,
Here's the
and it's
thing.
fine.
I've had this discussion with Andrew many times. Because, he's like, oh, diarrhea is the worst thing on the planet. I'm like, how is that different than regular poop? Like a solid poop versus diarrhea? What is the fucking difference?
Well,
Who
if you have a
cares?
bidet, there's no difference.
Oh, that good stuff.
It's like
One
the
just
South Park-
comes out quicker, and the other one doesn't. One tears.
But when you have diarrhea, you never really feel done.
Yeah.
You know, when you can pinch
feel-
it off,
you
you're
feel
like,
eviscerated.
it's done.
No, when
Yeah.
you pinch it off, you feel like maybe there's a little bit like
no,
solid
you
mass
don't,
back.
and that's why you always have diarrhea, because you've never experienced.
No, I have. I don't think one is more pleasant than the other. They're exactly the same.
I don't ever feel done when there's
Is that
diarrhea.
it? I do
Yeah.
not understand why diarrhea
The
is
moments
unpleasant.
before are more
It isn't-
manageable with regular poop than with diarrhea.
Because
Diarrhea
you
is
just
an emergency.
explode in
Right.
the toilet.
No, the
Right.
difference before is you're fucking prairie dogging, and in the other case, you're just,
One is more of a
Shitting your
relief, and the other is like you destroy a toilet.
I don't know. They're the same. It's the same fucking
Right.
I
thing.
mean, who cares if you're destroying a toilet? At the end of the day, you're destroying a toilet.
I truly
Shitting.
do not understand why one is more.
I just feel like you're like shooting something into a toilet versus like, you know,
Who
pushing
gives
one
a
through.
shit?
But if you
Yeah.
have a bidet, it doesn't matter. It cleans
I do
it
have a
all
bidet.
up. That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying
It's
beforehand,
I don't like my
before
ass to
that.
feel like that space
part.
cannon from Akira.
I don't know, dude. Cleaning up wet versus cleaning up smudge, I think still diarrhea is better.
I'm not talking
Even
about
with
the
toilet
cleanup.
paper.
I'm talking about the battle itself.
Yeah, you just shoot it out. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, but
It
sometimes
doesn't. It doesn't fucking matter. It's the
sometimes
same thing.
it burns. Like a lot of
It feels
people when
bad.
they have
So that's
diarrhea,
where Andrew mentioned it.
it
He was like,
burns.
I've never experienced that in my entire
Really?
life. And I've
What?
eaten spicy fucking food. I've never experienced that.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I got an iron goddamn fucking stomach.
You
It
have
doesn't
an
matter.
insane digestive system.
Yeah.
You should be studied.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like bolts in there or
No,
something.
I
I don't
actually
know.
have. They've taken blood at the fucking
To, like-
University of Washington.
They
Did
need
they
to
take
slice
diarrhea?
your body and like have your 1 millimeter split from your body in
Like-
museums.
I don't get stomach aches. I don't fucking.
That's insane.
Huh.
Insane. It's like your digestive system
I have
is so
never-
good, but also so bad at the same time.
It's just.
Is it good or
it's
bad?
a garbage chute.
I know, it's like both. It's like you
Yeah.
don't get nauseous, but you have diarrhea all the time?
But it's not painful.
And that's
I've
crazy.
never had a. People talk about the burning shits all the time.
Yes.
I
it's
don't know what that feels like.
Chris, you're like the worst mutant in the X-Men. Like, this is what you contribute to Professor Xavier's
I also don't.
forgetfulness.
I don't. Early in the show, we talked about heartburn, and I was getting heartburn, but I don't really ever get heartburn either. The only time I got heartburn was because I was drinking fucking like a gallon of tomato juice every single day.
That's too much tomato
V8?
juice.
Yeah.
The Trader Joe's version of it,
Oh,
the
right,
Garden
right,
Patch.
right. Yeah,
I was
yeah,
drinking
yeah.
that every single day, and I got. But once I stopped, no, I don't even get heartburn.
Right.
I get heartburn.
I don't get
All the
heartburn.
time.
I don't get stomach
acid
aches.
reflux.
Never
Yeah,
get old.
I think I have acid reflux.
I have
think
Yeah.
like GERD, I feel like.
Dude,
it's-
for
I
sure.
take Prilosec every single day.
Oh, me too.
Every day.
Without it,
Is that bad
without
for
it,
you to
I.
take?
I talked to my GI doctor because when I first started getting heartburn really bad, I got an endoscopy and colonoscopy, and he was like, everything looks good, and I was like, I get heartburn like all the time, and he was like, do you take Prilosec? And I was like, yeah, and he was like, does it work? And I'm like, yeah, but it says to only take it for like 2 weeks and then consult a doctor.
Right.
He's like, well, I'm a doctor, you're consulting me, and I'm saying, you're like literally over-the-counter Prilosec is the lowest dose of that medication that you can possibly take.
That's
so he's
good
like,
news.
He's like, if you're taking that and you're fine, then you're good. Because there's people who
Oh,
have to get
thank
prescription
God.
And it
doses.
prevents heart attacks or whatever, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Supposedly.
It's a blood thinner.
I've been spooked.
Right.
I've been
Anyway,
spooked enough to know.
in the early morning hours of February 19th, 1945, D-Day, you know why they call it D-Day?
Because
it's-
it is the day of destruction.
It is
The doomsday.
Destruction
Day.
Is
The
the day.
day.
Wait, D. The D and D day.
stands for day.
So
As
it's
far as I
day
can
day.
tell, it's day
They
day.
didn't want anyone to die. They just like German.
It's not
D-Day.
Well, it's like H hour.
Well, it
it's
ain't-
hour of the hour.
I don't care
It's
for-
the hour of the hour. You know?
That's so stupid.
Do you think that
They
there were
need some
like
rebranding.
no? There was like logistics people in the military, like in the Pentagon, like just like ties undone, smoking cigarettes. It's D-Day because it's the day. And the guy's like, well, what does the D stand for? And they're like, Jesus.
Day.
Stands for day. absolutely.
Nobody knows what it stands for. It's provocative.
It's provocative.
It's really
People are
means
going to be
dick
talking
later,
about this
right?
on indie podcasts for years.
Yeah.
yeah, they're always gonna wonder.
Chomping on a cigar, tied undone.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been through this 100 times.
It's like, now let's plan the actual event.
Yeah. Well, on
yeah, this is before it
14
happened.
days 2 weeks trying to figure out what to name this son of a bitch. Let's plan the operation. We got 24 hours.
Yeah.
We've been fucking around doing blow and fucking hookers for 2 weeks straight. And all we came up with was D-Day.
Yeah, I'm looking at the board.
D stands for day as well.
We went off on a 2-week fucking cocaine-fueled bender with hookers, and I'm looking at the whiteboard, it just says D-Day.
Our time is running out.
Yeah, we gotta plan this fucking thing.
No wonder they called him.
Let's call it D-Day.
What do they call him? Howlin' Mad.
Yeah.
You know?
Take the quotes off the D. It's just D-Day.
Yeah.
It was an ironic D. Or
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, the early hours, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, the Marines are starting to get ready. They're ready themselves mentally as much as they could. Their rifles, their packs, and they climb down into the Higgins boats on like those like ladders, those rope ladders.
Like the interlocking
Yeah,
rope.
they're like nets,
Yeah, yeah.
And like they toss them down like the big boats into like the Higgins boats,
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't want to like get stuck in between the Higgins boat, like that smush you, you know?
Because all those chicks watching would laugh at you.
But it wasn't like crazy for like a guy to fall in the water and they're like, they fished him out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like.
Oh gosh, that's way more embarrassing.
Yeah, especially with like the pack on and everything.
Especially, you fall in there, you see
Flailing
that mermaid babe, you try to have sex with her, they pull you up, your dick's out.
Yeah.
It looks like, super small because of the cold weather.
And they're like, why were you trying to fuck that manatee?
You're like,
it was a mermaid.
Why weren't
You're like, it's a crazy day. Everyone...
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to be dead tomorrow or not, so...
We're doing bumps of powdered egg.
Now my nose is full of eggs. Anyway, your grandfather, Robert Whedon, he was actually on an LST with the guns, with the 105 millimeter guns. So a little bit bigger of a boat that he was on. But they would hit the beach, an area of beach called Blue 2. Mm-hmm. Now, they were all color-coded. On the north end, there was the 5th Marines that hit the north end, and then there was the 3rd and 4th Marines that hit the south end. Now, Blue 2...
some of the other colors?
Yellow 1 and 2, blue 1 and 2, red 1 and 2,
Blue 42, height.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like a parking garage, but also...
Yeah. Right.
They had a little ticket that you could pull so you remembered what beach
Yeah.
you were on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be like... You remember that episode of Seinfeld, which is based on this? When they're stuck in the parking garage and they're trying to find their way.
Was it purple? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, their first mission of this operation was to cut off Mount Suribachi, because, like, the island kind of looks like a pork chop. At least, like all the old-timers, it looks like a pork chop.
Yeah, most things look like pork chops. Yeah. It was like the old Looney Tunes because they were hungry and somebody would turn into a pork chop.
Well, anything that's sort of oblong, they're like, it's a bit of a pork chop situation.
I mean,
this guy,
it does look like
this guy was torn open limb from limb, and you can see his kidneys look like a couple pork chops.
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat them. I think they might be pork chops. This
By
guy's
the
got
way,
pork chops hanging out of him.
every time like one of these guys was like talking, like they'd be like, "I just didn't know where I could hide. There was no cotton picking place that was safe." And then I would see something. Well, his whole head was. Anyway. It's like, oh god.
Jesus.
I know it's so fucked up, it's so dark, but like
I also
all of them were that way, dude.
Can I go back
all
to the
of
fact
them.
that he said cotton picking, which I'm pretty sure is a racist thing to say.
Is it?
Apparently
Well,
it's
they're of
actually-
that era,
Well, they're racist. I guarantee.
They were still in segregated, units at this time.
My grandfather grew up in, Utah and like Arizona areas and stuff. White man. Guarantee he hated Native Americans.
Oh, probably.
Probably grew up, realized that was stupid.
Yeah.
But I guarantee
Probably.
my grandpa hassled some Native Americans at some point in his fucking life.
Probably.
I fucking guarantee.
Come on, yeah, he was in World War II.
He was a racist.
Dressing up in
He was
drag.
a racist and he's dead now. Good. Anyway, back to the story about his heroic efforts at the Battle of Iwo Jima.
That's my grandpa.
Yeah. Now, the recon task force that actually went in beforehand, they were in there to, like, kind of destroy a couple of things, and kind of see what they were dealing with. Well, Kuribayashi thought that was the landing force. And so the naval, like, guns in Mount Suribachi, like the coastal defense guns, like, they rolled out of, like, their iron doors, because, like, that's how they hit them, is they rolled out in and out of these iron doors, so, you know, you could hide them easily. He rolled them out, and he shot on these forces. Now, what that did, I mean, he did get a few, you know, hits in there, and a couple of people who survived did win the Medal of Honor. But what it did do is it gave away these gun positions. So the Navy was able to blast away those guns. Now, if they weren't able to do that, there's an untold amount of life that could have been lost if those guns were still in place.
And it's our guys not there, so it's extra bad.
Right. Well, our guys, that would survive. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So.
And it's a double shame
it tipped the scales.
Yeah.
The guns coming in and out of the doors was the closest thing they had to pornography. So losing those guns was a huge morale.
She's like, you know what I'm picturing? I'm picturing, you know what I'm talking about.
Going in.
Phallic thing coming in and out.
Yeah,
The old
in and out of a small dark space. You know what I'm saying?
And the other Japanese guy's like, I don't get it. It's not blurry.
It's completely.
It's not all pixelated.
It's not all pixelated.
There's no tentacles.
And it's very hot in here. So
They probably have a lot of octopuses.
Yeah.
Which is the actual plural.
Octopussies.
Ah.
That's the plural.
yeah.
It's like the boys.
Now.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
That show's good.
Yep,
That's a good show.
Now
good.
these Higgins boats and everything, because they wanted to get like a bunch of them like loaded up. So before they even hit the beaches, they like circled until they could get everyone loaded up. So of course, like, you know, seasickness was a major thing. You know, like all these guys were talking about how like they would get pot shots from the enemy, and sometimes it would hit a guy.
Yeah.
But like people were also puking just everywhere. You're in there shoulder to shoulder with guys. They're puking on you.
Oh, that's so.
You know.
And they were probably like, they were like looking at other people puke, and they were puking, and some deckhands like scrubbing it, and he's trying not to puke.
Yeah.
But he pukes. And
Everyone's just puking.
Oh, it's so funny.
Is that Stand By Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
It is Stand By Me. That is what I was referencing. But I was
That's
also
a great
thinking,
scene. By the way,
it's the best scene in the whole movie.
It
They
really
have a
is.
scene like that in History of the World Part 2 as well.
I want to watch
I
that.
want to see it.
I can't.
It's very good.
Okay.
They have
I'll
a
look
scene where they're all vomiting, and then one vomit
good.
starts the other one.
Vomit's super funny.
For a hot
For a
second, I
while.
thought you were like, is this supposed to be connected?
I thought so too. I was like, this
It's
was
like
fucking
Tyler. Anyway.
We never plugged your mic in. We're going to pretend like you're not on the episode.
There's this hole in the conversation.
We're like, we're bringing you back, Tyler.
Just fun.
Now, when the first waves of Marines hit the beaches, around 9 o'clock a.m., they found the beaches hauntingly silent. You know, they heard there's a couple of pot shots being made at them, here and there. But otherwise, it was sort of light, and they were like, this is not what we were expecting. Another thing that they weren't expecting is that everything, including them, sank immediately in that volcanic ash sand. It immediately. Like, their trucks, their Amtraks, everything sank, immediately. The Higgins boats, and they had to dig all that stuff out, right? And so as these waves start hitting the beaches are becoming really congested, really crowded, and it is at that point that Kuribayashi gave the order to open fire.
It's like the 405 at about 5 p.m.
Yeah, and it was clogged.
In California?
There's a 405 up here, too.
I know.
That gets clogged.
I know, but they was talking about the 405 down there.
Yeah.
I was like, we got a 405, and it sucks, too.
Yeah. So basically, the beaches were instantly turned into chaos and carnage. People were falling right and left. Mortar shells were exploding right and left. And to stay alive, these guys had to run from mortar crater to mortar crater, hoping that they didn't shoot in that same area again.
Well, they don't want to waste ammo by shooting in the same spot.
Right. And hopefully no one saw you jump in that crater, and hopefully you waited long enough for the guy who might have seen you to, for you to jump out and move ahead.
Well, and getting one guy with a mortar is kind of a waste. You want to get at least a 2 for...
Yeah, but it's true. It's true.
They only got so many mortars.
Yeah.
Right.
There was this basically, because of all the defenses, there was no safe place on Iwo Jima. ever.
Mm-hmm.
No safe place, especially for the landing Marines. Just, I mean, you stayed down as much as you could. And, like, that was, like, your reality, you know? Like, going from, like, blown-out crater to blown-out crater, like, sometimes you would jump in, you know, as fast as you could, like, on top of a body of, like, another dead Marine. You know what I mean? And, like, how haunting and horrible that must have been, I really can't imagine. You know what I mean?
Well, you're just hoping when you hit that body that it was someone who was mean to you in basic.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's a thing, though. You know, it's almost like good fun until you, like, are actually with...
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, there's this... Ask any Marine. There is a special bond between all Marines.
Yeah.
You know, more so than probably any other branch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I've seen Forrest Gump. I know Bubba and Forrest relationship. I imagine it's
Full
all
Metal
like
Jacket,
that.
you know, it brings you together, you know?
Was Forrest Gump a Marine?
I didn't know if he was... I thought he was in the Army,
Yeah, I
but
guess
in
Army.
Full Metal
You're
Jacket...
right, I get it.
I don't
Full
know
Metal
what the
Jacket is
difference
Marine
is.
Corps.
Him and Bubba had a Marine-like bond, so I'll
Right.
give it to
Okay.
you.
And later, him and Lieutenant Dan had a Marine-like bond.
Yeah, sexually speaking.
I
Yeah.
don't think they ever
Okay.
did it.
No.
No.
I mean, they probably watched each other jerk off, but that's not...
Jesus.
You don't know what
Well,
nothing to
they
do with their
almost
military
fucked in the same
experience.
room. They almost fucked
You're
with
right.
prostitutes in the same
If Lieutenant
room.
Dan had it his way, they would have maybe
But that
done a
one
little-
girl had to be all... You know,
She tasted like
ableist.
cigarettes.
I don't...
Yeah.
It's a bit of a Blake
Oh wait,
situation.
you're right. The one who was ableist. I feel like
You can have
if
to cut
Forrest
that.
was down and everything was going, like if the vibe was good, she could have got over the no legs thing.
Mm.
She's like,
She was
yeah.
already, basically
Yeah.
fucking him at that point. I
Yeah.
just recently
Forrest
rewatched
was the
it, so-
buzzkill, and then she got
Yes.
all.
No, then
angry.
he was
Yeah.
defending
Oh yeah,
Forrest
yeah,
because she was like, "What are you, stupid or something?"
yeah.
The ideology of that movie is very much in the boomer
Oh
ideology.
yeah, all of the
We're
reviews
like,
were like,
cow-
"This is what boomers think their
Yeah.
lives are
Like
were
the counterculture is like is what's her name?
Yeah.
Jenny?
Yes.
And it's like, we'll give her AIDS.
Yeah,
That'll
and she's
show her.
gonna be addicted to heroin
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure, and she's gonna like fuck a bunch of black guys. Literally.
That'll show them.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that was the
This is
guy.
what
Yeah.
counterculture was.
Yeah.
They're gonna have sex with black people.
And also, she's an asshole.
Yeah.
I remember. I watched.
She got raped by her father, so it's
Yeah.
like no wonder she's fucked up.
This movie's
Yeah.
so fucking dark.
It's,
I really.
Yeah.
I did not like this movie when I was a kid, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "It's such a good movie." And I'm like, "This movie made me feel very uncomfortable." At
Oh, yeah.
nine fucking years old, everyone's
Yeah.
like, "This is a movie that's completely appropriate to show for
Yeah.
kids because it's
She
fucking
literally-
PG-13."
Reality is scary.
Like
yeah.
sexually abused by her dad, or it's like implied.
I want to
like,
fly,
heavily
fly
implied.
away.
Yeah, and then she
from
goes,
her.
and then she's like begging to like leave the house because she's basically like being abused. It's
Yeah,
super
it's like
sad.
it's like the girl from It who was clearly getting raped by her dad.
Yeah.
I think in the
Right.
book that's like I don't think it's
If it's Stephen King, he doesn't mince words. Like his bad guys are horrible.
in the book. I think it's
Yeah.
like it's explicitly stated.
But
I
in
bet,
the movie,
I
it's a
bet.
little bit more implied, right?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, they were just kind of like he was super overprotective of
Yeah.
her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the book, Stephen King's like, the only thing that'll fix the scars of her constant sexual abuse is getting gangbanged by all of her friends. The end.
Yep.
Well, so on these beaches where they can't move off of them because remember there's these terraces that I think they were built by Kuribayashi, you know, like piled sand that were like 20 to 40 feet high, right? And they're super steep, right?
Mhm.
And you can't get the tanks or anything over it, and you can't climb up it, or it's very difficult to do so.
He built them. Wow.
Yeah, I think that's what happened
Potentially.
because so in October they had intelligence that the beaches were no problem, and they had actually originally planned to attack in November. And if they attacked in November, none of those defenses would really be there. So like his beach defenses that he conceded to have were building these terraces and then laying mines as well.
Mm.
So those were the only defenses on the beach.
Okay.
And they were pretty effective because getting anything over that terrace was next to impossible. You know what I mean?
Minecraft.
I mean, they did.
Yeah.
They basically have no structure to them, right? I mean, it's just like,
it's impossible
fall-
to sand.
Yeah.
to just negotiate.
Just fucking
You know.
shitty sand everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even in the most ideal beach situation, like I had to swim up on a beach while there was the tide coming in, and if you time it just wrong, like in a life jacket and swim trunks, you just get like sucked back out.
Yeah.
And so,
Imagine
like,
wearing like 40 pounds of gear,
Right.
and then like jumping off of like one of these Higgins boats or something, and like you get forcibly dunked in the water over and over again, slammed up against a boat, like into other people. There's gunfire coming down upon you. Like, I couldn't imagine that.
Then,
You know?
then you gotta scramble up the sand, hope to not get sucked back out, and then do an hour to an hour and a half of physical comedy. Wait.
And not to mention the cacophony of sound. Like, when all these guys, they talk about how it was ear-splittingly loud. So loud that, like, you know, how there's like the pop, 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 pop of a gun? Well, it's that magnified by like thousands. So instead of hearing a single pop or a distinguishable pop here or there, you hear a wall of just that, right? So it's so loud, just firing, you know, all these different types of guns, screaming, explosions, all of that is happening. You can't hear any. There's no hearing protection, by the way. Even like with the guys in the artillery, like there's these big guns going off. You can't hear shit, dude. Like,
they created their pets.
They're not really worried about the long-term effects of these soldiers.
No.
Both physical and mental.
No, certainly not. They didn't know, you know, that they knew shell shock, but they didn't know, you know, the long-term implications of, you know, PTSD and things like this.
I know, it's yeah. So, one things I do know, my grandpa talking about the war was when he was asked about what the Battle of Iwo Jima was like, was that it was loud.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And everything I've known about, like, war, like World War I and all that stuff, is it's just, like, you don't hear the isolated pops. You don't hear... No. You're not hearing, like, the firing. You're just hearing this, like you said, a wall of noise. Just a constant, almost like whirring.
Cacophony. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no... You don't pick out the isolated sounds. It's just noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One Time Life correspondent who was there, Robert Sherrod, he had a famous quote from this battle. He called it a, quote, a nightmare in hell, end quote. You know, they just, you know, there's no way to really describe just how awful it was, other than just, like, turning it to 11. Like, I don't know, man, it was the worst thing you can fucking imagine.
Yeah.
It's like when you wake up from a nightmare, you know, and you're like, oh, thank God that was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Except that you're waking up
Now
in
you're
hell.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Exactly.
And demons are shoving a pitchfork up your fucking ass.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, thank God.
Well, it brings to mind, like, how much worse could your nightmares be if you were already in hell?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, your nightmare would have to be worse somehow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up your game, Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Already here.
Yeah. Early on, too, they got, like, radios from, like, their boats that were landing that were like, retreat, take your boats off the beach, retreat. And they were like, what the fuck? And they were like, so they called over, like, one of the Navajo code talkers, the wind talkers. And they called him over to basically tell the person on the radio, like, hey, repeat that order, only in Navajo, right? And, you know, the Japanese guys that were trying to trick them are like, I don't know what the fuck they're saying anymore. You know, they never broke that code. Because, again, like the Navajo code talker, there were layers of code on top of it. Like, they referred to tanks, you know, as, like, turtles and stuff. So you had to know the context of the code as well in order to break it. Like, say you did learn this esoteric language from a country you didn't know a lot about, you still would have to know what to call things like ships or, you know, you just wouldn't know, you know?
In a lot of ways, the genocide perpetuated by the United States government in the 19th century really played a role in making our victories in the 20th century. Yeah,
and it's very sad because... And ironic, because they outlawed the Navajo language, and they, you know, kids would get in trouble for talking, you know, speaking it in schools. It was not taught, not condoned at all until World War II, and all of a sudden they become very important.
Until they needed it, basically.
You know? Yeah, until they became useful. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer syndrome. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I hate it until we need it. You know? Yeah. Major Roland J. Spitzin, he was, so the lower commander. He actually had to take command of the 4th Battalion because Colonel Youngdale had to take command of the 3rd for a short time because their commander was killed on the beach. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, fuck, now we gotta switch this around. And, like, Spitzin, with his, battalion, they're still circling, because they're, like, kind of waiting for a second to, like, bring the artillery pieces up to the beach. And Spritzin, he was like, we gotta bring that artillery up fucking now. Yeah. We have to land earlier than we had planned because we need these guns firing to silence these Japanese guns that are just withering, our troops here. So they do land early. So basically, Spritzin, he's circling, like, and he's going to bring them in early, right? The LSTs and stuff, they're holding some of the bigger guns, but some of the smaller boats that are carrying the other artillery pieces are the ducks, right? DUKW, right? Yeah. Ducks as in the ducks in Seattle, right? Ride the ducks, right? They have them all over the country.
Yeah.
And now correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't know. You guys didn't know.
No.
I knew.
I didn't.
You didn't know. You didn't know. You, Chris, didn't know.
I did not know either.
Yeah, that they were used in this fashion for amphibious assault.
So they
Until
didn't
just
even
now.
change
Have you ever
the
ridden
name.
No.
No, I think it's...
No.
Have you ever ridden those things?
I know, I never did, but
They
they're
were so
but they're
uncomfortable.
they're decommissioned from World War II. Yeah.
And they're decommissioned from the Ride the Ducks store.
They are for good
that
reason.
That one crashed into a fucking bus on the Aurora Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're haunted.
Yeah.
Plus they're haunted, yes.
Well, that's where that's actually, it was
they
actually
not
a very green source of power as they used the souls of the World War II veterans that had died as an energy source to, drive around the Puget Sound.
Well,
How is DUKW ducks?
That's just
should be
what...
DUWK would be
I know, but
they spent all day. They spent so much time trying to come up with the term D-Day that they were just like, it's ducks, whatever. Like we already. I'm not wasting any more time on these fucking names.
And by the way, the guys that manned the ducks and like a lot of the landing crew and like the Seabees that had the tractors. And, like, keep in mind, like, tractors, it is a tractor. You know what I mean?
John Deere. It's a certified John Deere.
Pretty much, you're sitting on top of a tractor. There's no, like, shield or anything around you. Like, you're exposed.
Yeah.
And that is, for a lot of these things, it's the only way to get, like, these pieces out of the sand is, like, with these tractor pieces. So, like, and it's manned by segregated units, by the way, with, like, white officers. Really? So, like, segregated units, like, drove the ducks and these tractor pieces. They also had to clean up the dead bodies when it was all said and done.
It was so we could pick out the guys who were most in harm's way to give them all medals later on.
Something.
There's probably some truth to that. Remember in the South Park movie where there's the one like
Operation Shield?
Yeah. Chef was in that.
Yeah, strapping all those guys to planes.
Yeah. Well, as they're doing this, the ducks are, there's mechanical failures. They're taking direct hits, and Spritzen's LST takes multiple direct hits. He had to move it out of range, but the damage was done. When he landed early, he had ducks falling off of their tracks to get out and like filling with water and sinking in the sand with their artillery pieces, and they're like shit, like trying to pull them out, and like it's useless because you're being shot at the entire time. But the reason why he was in such a hurry is because he watched 6 of these ducks sink around him, and he was like, we have to hit this beach or we're not gonna have any guns left. So all of these like 105 millimeter guns, like the 75 like pack howitzers, those were much easier to take out of like sinking ducks and stuff.
They were 1/4 the size.
Exactly. So they're like, all right, disassemble it and fucking take it out of this, like, easier to take out. But, like, the other ones, it's like, fuck, Like, I couldn't imagine...
know how they would even do it.
I couldn't imagine being shot at the entire time, sinking in the sand myself, and trying to pull out, like, thousands of pounds of like awkward machinery out of something else that's like bobbing in and out of the surf.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It took all day for these guys to accomplish. All day. Like, the 14th Marines, by 5:45 p.m., they had 11 guns actually set up and shooting. 11 out of the entire 14th.
How many did they have total?
Well, they had 4 battalions, right? Robert Whedon was in the 4th.
Yeah.
But they had 4 battalions of batteries, right? And I don't know how many batteries are in a single...
battalion.
Yeah. But, like, Robert Whedon, he was in Battery Mike, M. So A, B, C, D, M. He was in M, So I don't know how that generally works, how that breakdown works. Again, if you know, if you know all this stuff, historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear, really all the nuts and bolts of I'm just interested. Yeah, the nuts and bolts breakdown of this kind of stuff. But they struggled to get all of that out, And again, there is no safe place on this island. It's not like if you stood here, you weren't getting shot at. It's like, no, you were being shot at every second you were there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Doesn't matter where you went.
Does not matter. Yeah.
Yikes.
By 10:45, that is when they hit the beach. The 4th Battalion hit the beach. Now, they suffered 6, casualties, people being hit by bullets before they even hit the beach. So, you're on
the water,
Yeah, your grandfather was probably on a boat where there was somebody shot before they even hit the beach.
Right,
you know what I mean? When they did hit the beach, there were already bodies. They were pulling stuff out of this sand, this ash. It must have just been a fucking nightmare. You know what I mean? So, as I said earlier, by 5:45 on the first day, that's when they had their 11 guns shooting. Yeah, 11 guns of the 14th Marines shooting. But it wouldn't be until midnight on D+1. I think that's why they have it. D-Day, day, and then they would count the days afterwards as D+1, 2, 3, 4. So you didn't have to keep track of what day it was. Okay. It's just D+1, D+2.
D would be the first day. So it's
D being day, yeah. And then D+1, 2, 3.
Day +1.
Yeah. Well, D-Day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
day 2 would have been D+1.
D+1. Yeah. So on D+1, the 14th Battalion, it was right after midnight that the 4th Battalion actually got 12 of their 105 millimeter guns up and operational and shooting.
Progress.
Right after midnight. It took them a whole day and then some change. They didn't sleep. Nothing. Food, forget about it. You know what I mean? Forget about it. Now, Howlin' Mad Smith, he was quoted as saying, quote, "I don't know who he is, but the Japanese general running the show is one smart bastard." Yeah. Now, even when they got these guns up and operational and firing, it was difficult to find out where they were. In fact, there were guys that were not even with artillery, that were with rifle brigades, that never saw one of them. Not once. They never saw any of the Japanese. Every once in a while, you might find a dead one, but the thing is they would come out at night and pull the dead away and put them in that underground morgue. But it was so common that these guys, would be there for the whole engagement and not see a single one. That is terrifying to me.
It's a samurai with an army of ninjas, dude.
Yeah. And just these teeny little pillboxes. And when I say pillbox, it's a hole that's camouflaged where a gun is sticking out. It's enough room for a gun to stick out and you to look. And then you're shooting out of this tiny hole, right? Yeah. And it's connected with all these tunnels and stuff. And so there's all these ways that they had to deal with this, right? They'd use flamethrowers and things like this. Run up and stick the nozzle in and and they only had 10 seconds of fire, right? Before you're out. You're out of napalm, basically, right?
Every time I've used a flamethrower in a video game, it's never worth it. They have the lowest...
Well...
They run out so fast. And
they're more terrifying in real life. you can spray it for about 10 seconds, and that's as much time as you got. Like, there was a guy that, I'll get to him later, he won the Medal of Honor, you know, for using a flamethrower. I'll get to him later.
That's fucking cool.
He got
Yeah, dude, this guy was a
the most
badass.
flame-thrownest guy in town.
He was a badass.
He got a medal for the most flamethrower kills.
Now, the fucked up part about it, too, is that even though, like, they had their you know, pack howitzers and the 105, you know, millimeter howitzers firing, it only hit the people on the surface. It was ineffective to anyone down in those tunnels. You know what I mean? So if they weren't out and about, which they almost never were, it didn't really do anything.
Seems like these tunnels are the reason the Japanese did so well.
Exactly. You're right. Yeah. Now,
this sounds like a precursor to me, like when you hear about Nam, except now it's the trees.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the jungle, right? This is like the beach.
This is
like,
a proto-Nam.
Yeah. Except that the Japanese were still used to Chinese tactics that worked on the Chinese, but wouldn't really work against.
They weren't used to the Americans' tactics.
Right. Or, well, more modern equipment.
Yeah.
Like, it's the first battle where they had the flame-breathing tanks, you know?
Metal.
Like the tank that would just shoot fire, you know? Which scared the shit out of them.
That's
you know?
fucking. I mean, that's badass. That would scare. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
A tank shooting fire.
Well, and you're expecting, you know, this tank to fire like ineffectual shells close range. So you get up real close, and then it, you know, it's like, oh my god.
That's not.
You know?
Oh.
That's not what I was expecting. You know. So on D+3, 3 days since they got there, it's supposed to be over by now, right?
Yeah.
The 4th Battalion moved 300 yards. That's as far as they moved in 3 days.
I mean, that's 3 football fields.
Yeah. How many
It's
Chrysler
nothing.
buildings stack end to end? Olympic-sized swimming pools?
Yeah.
And they actually occupied 2 captured concrete encampments. But the thing is they really had to conserve their ammunition. They couldn't keep up ammunition because getting ammunition from the ship to the beach to where they are, that's perilous. And at the same time, like, so you brought up ammunition. Now you gotta evacuate wounded. That whole trip is a harrowing journey in of itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're wounded and they gotta take you out, like, dude, you have a whole other thing to look forward to.
You remember in Black Hawk Down when somebody would die and Todd Sizemore would like walk in there on the battlefield?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
This is fucking cool.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
You ever seen that movie, Black Hawk Down?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's a great
Josh
movie.
Hartnett.
Is he in that?
Yeah, he's the main character in it.
I know that he's in that actually.
Yeah.
I was just joking.
He's from Minnesota.
Tom Sizemore was in it and he just died.
Yeah. He was in like every war movie. Yeah.
He's that kind
Once
of guy.
you're in one, you're in them all.
Yep.
Yeah, they're all exactly the same. Fuck it.
I mean, honestly, to me, they feel like that sometimes.
I can see that.
They get there and things get hairy, and then they're like, "Yeah, I don't want to be here."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now on February 23rd, D+5, there was the first flag raising. Basically, what happened is guys from the 5th Marine Division on the other side of the island, on the opposite side of the island from where Robert Whedon was, the fighting was intense at the base of the mountain, Mount Suribachi, right? But it wasn't really on the way up. Like, they talked about how, like, they saw minimal resistance on the way up. You know, so they got up there and they found like some pipes and they put it together and
What, those pipes?
Yeah, and they put American flag on it. It was a small flag and they raised it, right? During the first flag that went up, it was the smaller flag that went up. Everybody started yelling colors, right? In the Marine Corps, that's what happens. Colors, and everyone cheered. Everyone cheered for that first flag raising. Yeah. Everyone shot their guns, you know, and the Japanese were so pissed off that they shot even harder at them, you know, so the battle just raged up a little bit when that flag went up. Nice. You know what I mean? And it continued, right? And then later there was a colonel that was like, you know, instead of that small flag, I want everyone to see that flag. Because you can't really see it across the
Can we make the flag bigger?
Yeah. So he gave them an 8-foot flag, and he goes, take that up there, you know? And there was a couple of correspondents, a civilian correspondent named Joe Rosenthal.
Oh my god.
And,
I thought you were gonna
Jamie,
say
look
Joe
that up.
Rogan. Yeah.
Joe Rosenthal.
100%.
Joe Rogan went up there.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's great grandfather or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
also named Joe, because I imagine they're not creative in their naming.
Oh, hell no.
And this is almost a whole story in of itself, but like basically they were there up with a film camera, motion picture camera, and a still camera. Joe Rosenthal with the still camera, and he stood a little bit further away from the film camera, and they shot it just boom like that. It was, when people say it's staged in that. I'm gonna take this picture of you raising the flag, and I'm gonna stand here while you do it.
Mm-hmm.
In that way, it's staged. It's not like, now you look like you're struggling. Like, no. It wasn't staged in that way. You know what I mean?
But
like, the film proves this, right? The film proves...
They're taking the picture as they're setting up the...
Yes.
It was staged in the sense that, like, we're going to take a picture while you do this.
Yes.
Right.
Is this the iconic photo?
That is the iconic photo. The second flag raising...
Guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, he sent off that photo. It was made famous before anyone even knew that it was famous. Like, that was still on
It's
Evo.
like we could have lost.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, FDR being like the promoter he was like, war bonds. This would be great for war bonds, So it became like one of the best, most reused, reprinted
It was
images.
like an NFT for war.
Yeah.
And of the flag raisers, there's a whole story that goes with that. It's a great story, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's a story for a different day.
So, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
This is what my dad told me that my grandpa said, right? About the flag raising specifically, was that apparently, like, my grandfather's point would have been lower down and still technically in the fighting, right?
Far away, yes, from Mount Suribachi.
Yeah, they were still in the shit.
Oh, yeah.
While they were doing that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they were aware that these people are up there taking a fucking photo, right? And I guess even, like, the people up there were like, oh, here we go. This is according to my father.
Yeah.
I'm only speaking, well...
Third hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Hand.
So,
yeah.
My grandfather, may he rest in peace. If this isn't exactly how he described it, I apologize.
None of those guys are left anymore. You can say.
Yeah, he's gone. I can say. Yeah, he said, boo, 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 I'm Robert Weed. No.
He said they all had jetpacks.
Yeah. So, like, apparently, like, they were very, like,
Annoyed,
I guess is a weird way. They were like, these motherfuckers going up there and just taking a fucking photo up. Like, that picture, that iconic fucking picture of, of course, the flag raising Iwo Jima that everybody's fucking seen. The statue right outside of D.C. by
the
Arlington
Marine,
Cemetery, which
the
I've also
Marine
seen.
Memorial. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there because of when my wife's grandfather passed. He was buried at Arlington Cemetery, which was a very cool experience as well.
Right.
Did he get buried there? Was it the same grandpa that got his back crushed at the Ford factory?
No, he's still alive.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was able to get a Ford Focus hybrid at a good deal. And you can too, if you go down to your local Ford dealership.
So it's way like these days when you're like waiting in line at Starbucks and then like the person ahead of you like found some super complicated drink on TikTok and they order it and you're just like, God damn it, these
It's
fuckers,
just
now
like
I gotta
That's
wait."
exactly how my
I'm
grandfather...
over here waiting for my coffee.
I'm here suffering. Yeah.
I'm
Without
down,
any caffeine. And
I'm
they're
down
over
here
there.
suffering, and they're up there, and they're TikToking
And
it while they order it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're filming it. They're
Yeah.
Like,
filming
I'm
it
doing
on
the
TikTok.
Sleepy Doob challenge. I got a Sleepy Doob coming.
That's exactly
Honestly-
how my grandfather felt.
Yeah,
The
and
way-
that's why they hate TikTok.
Yeah, that's why. Well, boomers too.
Yeah.
It's not vanilla syrup. It's vanilla cold foam. You idiot.
Honestly, most of like the old timers that were not on Suribachi that were talking about the second flag raising.
Yeah.
Most of them said that no one noticed the second flag raising.
Interesting.
That they were just like, oh no, we saw the first one because it was kind of symbolic and it was like colors, okay, right. And then when they did the photo op, they were like, oh yeah, no, we already saw that.
Yeah.
No one even noticed it, and it wasn't supposed to be a big thing either. They were just switching out the flag. So, like, it wasn't something that, like, people were supposed to notice or supposed to really take note of.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, most of the guys were like, oh, yeah, nobody even noticed or even talked about the second flag raising. It's just switching out the flag for a bigger flag.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened to be that was the photo op.
Yeah.
You know, but
It's also a good-looking photo. Come on.
it's a perfect photo.
I mean, like,
my goodness.
Even if,
it's
like,
an
you're
amazing
getting it,
photo.
like, intentionally, like, the look on that, all the soldiers pushing the flag up, it's
I mean,
iconic.
it says so much in
it's
such a in one
it's
frame.
metaphorical.
In one frame.
It,
Yeah,
like,
you can see movement.
There's
You know,
such struggle to it. It's a great fucking photo.
it is. It absolutely is. And what probably the
There's a
most
reason
iconic
people know
photo
it.
of our side of World War II.
Yeah,
You know, the American side
I
of
would
World
think
War
so. Yeah.
Now, that's all I'm really going to talk about on the flag raising. There is more to speak of on that flag raising. There's whole stories involved in that. But I'm going to move back to sort of what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Right?
To go back to, and this is where my grandfather would be.
Right, yeah.
During this time.
Now,
Meanwhile,
yeah, despite Japan's loss of Mount Suribachi on the south end of the island, the Japanese still had held their strongest positions on the north end of the island. The rocky terrain vastly favored defense, even more so than Mount Suribachi. And Mount Suribachi was easier to hit it with naval guns.
Yeah, because
You can't.
up.
Yeah, you can't really hit like, you know what I mean, like the rest of it.
The ground, yeah.
So it was all that, right? And so moving was painfully slow. They'd grind ahead by just, day after day after day of this.
yeah, a couple yards at a time.
Yeah.
A couple 100 yards at a time.
It had places that were in between hills, right? That were called like the amphitheater, and then hills that were highly fortified. And these areas in between, these sort of clearings in between, they called the meat grinder.
Mm-hmm.
Because of just how intensely deadly it was.
Fresh meat for the grind.
Yeah. You would bomb out these pillboxes and think that they were empty, and then all of a sudden there's more guys there again, Like, it was impossible, seemingly.
Like when you get a single Tic Tac that hides at the top.
Yeah, it's like, where'd you come from?
Not that I'm complaining.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Now, the 4th Division of the Marines took heavy casualties, alarming casualties. They were reduced to 50% strength, which is abysmally low. So what ended up happening is that these replacements were sent in. Now, the replacements were incredibly young and just out of boot camp, and they didn't really have any time to assimilate with their Marine Corps brothers, right?
Mm.
They didn't have the same, connection that the rest of them had. You know what I mean? The guys like Robert Whedon, they were on Saipan, Tinian all together. They ate next to each other. They slept next to each other. Their whole lives, were with each other.
Yeah.
These replacements that came in didn't really know, and most of the Marine Corps casualties in this battle were these replacements. Unfortunately, they were slaughtered. Unfortunately, intensely sad.
Just showing up.
They didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So the guns of the 14th Marines, over the entire time they were there, fired an estimated over 156,000 shells into this 8 square mile island.
That's like a small gun show in Texas.
156,000 shells. That's like, I think it's over 3,000 pounds of artillery into this island that barely touched them.
And for the folks at home, that's over 4 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Now, Kuribayashi he had forbidden the Banzai suicide bayonet charges that were familiar with other battles in the Pacific. The commander of the area, his name was Samaji Inoue, he had a disagreement with this. He thought that it was the only honorable way to go, and he decided that he was going to take his guys on this ambitious bonsai charge, and they were going to go all the way up to Mount Suribachi.
He so basically said in no way I'm going to go with your plan.
Yeah, in no way. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So on the night of March 8th, Inoue and his 1,000 men charged the American lines. They inflicted 347 casualties,
Ooh.
90 deaths, but, like, basically when this happened, they got, like, these frantic calls, and, like, in the middle of the night, the guys of, like, the artillery were like, fuck, and, like, ran to their guns, zeroed them in, and then, like, started shooting. And I guess a lot of these guys on these Banzai charges died in open ground from artillery. Right? And so when the Marines, they lost 347, 90 dead, when they went to go look at what the Japanese had lost, it was 784 dead. Right? Like, appalling losses, you know what I mean? Yeah. On like, just, my God, could you imagine?
Maybe
I could not imagine.
Have left with just their katana blades.
Well, again, it's honorable.
No,
I don't know.
Let's go Tsushima.
I gotta think it's defeatism in of itself.
The suicide,
like they accuse Kuribayashi of being defeatist, and yet run Banzai into these.
Sounds like these guys are just some kind of suicide squad. See, they say the name of it in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a boomerang guy there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Captain Boomerang?
Yeah.
Is he captain?
I mean,
it's Jai Court.
He started out as just Boomerang, and he worked his way up to the next
to captain, and then got killed.
Yeah.
So also let's also keep in mind that while this is all happening, there are still like air attacks happening to like the Navy, right? Like kamikaze air attacks
outside the island.
Yeah. Because they're still like taking whatever planes they have on the island or near the island at Chichijima, which is an island that is not far away.
Chibijima.
Yep.
Chibijima.
Chichijima.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, Chibijima.
Well,
Chibijima.
Well, Chisai
Chibijima
is small in Japan.
Yeah. Iwa, or wait, you said it means Sulphur Island.
Iwo Jima.
I would imagine Iwo is island.
I think Jima is island.
Okay.
So
Chichijima.
Chibijima.
Chichijima.
I know. Chibi means like the little anime.
One has huge eyes.
Yeah. That's what we're all laughing at, Jerry. You don't watch anime.
You don't know what chibi is? Oh.
No.
Well, we gotta have a new podcast to tell Jerry about things.
If Chichijima is your profile picture on Twitter, you probably say some racist shit.
Okay.
Well, it's always people with like anime profile pics, and they're like, I just think white people are better.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Fucking Scott Adams has one of those. Dilbert.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the Dilbert guy?
Yeah.
Well, it
that I'd watch.
Like these kamikaze air attacks like sunk like the USS Bismarck Sea. It severely damaged the USS Saratoga. Old Sarah.
Yeah.
Serotonin.
From Captain Ron. Just want to throw that. Old Sarah. Yeah.
I love Captain Ron.
Learned that drive the Saratoga. The USS Saratoga? Yeah, old Sarah. I think it's such an underrated joke out of that movie. I don't know. I think it's so funny.
He's just pulling it out of his ass, right?
Yeah, he is.
He didn't even know what he was talking about.
No idea what the fuck he's talking about.
The guy, it's that thing where you're like, I did this thing, and they're like, he touches on knowledge that somebody else has, and they're like, wait, you're saying you did this? He's like, yeah. I'm not talking about that anymore. The next thing for me to lie about.
And then, like, the next thing he says is like, it'll be. I forget what he says, but he goes, I learned that in rehab. They're like,
Now that I might.
Yeah. No, that's probably real. Yeah. It also made some damage to another escort carrier, USS Lunga Point, and an LST and a couple other transports. But by the time D+18 happened, they had reached Tachiiwa Point. Which was an area where they could... Basically, they've inched their way forward in the grand scheme of things. They've inched their way forward, right? And they're finally sort of starting to break through by March 13th, which is D+22. Now, D+22, this is kind of where the guns of the 14th Marines fell silent. They were called back. They were to re-embark on their boats on March 15th to leave Iwo Jima. And for a lot of the artillery, that's what it was, right? And basically what they're going to do is be like, okay, quickly pull out the artillery, take them back to Hawaii, retrain them, because we got something else going on. We got A, Okinawa, and B, we need those artillery guns for the taking of the Japanese mainland, right? And they're going to retrain to take the Japanese mainland.
Was my grandpapa one of those?
Your grandpapa was going to retrain to take the Japanese mainland.
Wow, what if that happened?
Yeah, that's... a lot of more people would have died.
Well, we firebombed Tokyo, though, right?
Once we took these these airstrips and whatnot in Iwo Jima, that freed up Kurt LeMay's air wings and B-29s to firebomb Tokyo, yes. It would not have been possible without the taking of Iwo Jima.
Yeah, which was a just fucking gigantic, tragic loss of life.
Oh my god, yes. Oh my god, yes.
We don't hear
it was a way to
on
make
our
them
side.
quit. Like what you know, what Kurt LeMay was saying, like,
What?
we just had to make them stop. Make them quit, you know?
With the bombs,
Oppenheimer's like, hold my beer.
Yeah. and you know, the A-bombs would not have happened without Iwo Jima being taken as well.
They wouldn't have got him out there.
Exactly. So, although the island was declared secure at 1800 hours on March 16th, 25 days after they landed, again, it was only supposed to take week tops. 3 days to a week tops. 25 days they were there. Is when it was, quote-unquote, declared secure. The 5th Marine Division still faced Kuribayashi's stronghold in a gorge, which was about 700 yards long, in the northwestern end of the island. And on March 21st, the Marines destroyed the command post in the gorge with 4 tons of explosives. And on March 24th...
Was that like mortar fire kind of thing?
No.
Did they go down there and like pack...
with satchel charges, pull charges,
that's what I was wondering.
Things like that. They would blow like some of these cave entrances shut. They would take like the CBs, like those tractors, and like cover the holes and like seal them inside, like shit like that, because they were so tired of them just, oh shit, they're behind us again.
I mean, that's a strategic, like, it would be dumb not to seal those holes.
Yeah,
shut. You
exactly.
know what I'm
There
saying?
you go.
Yeah. So March 24th, the Marines sealed the remaining caves in the northern tip of the island. But on the evening of March 23rd, 1945, Kuribayashi radioed the last message to Chichijima, and here it was. Quote, "All officers and men of Chichijima, goodbye from Iwo." End quote. And they, like, the guys on Chichijima were like, "Are you guys still there? Are you okay?"
And then nothing.
They got nothing.
Yeah.
Because he was like, this is it, you know?
Poor sons of bitches.
Yeah. So, even after it was declared secured, like, no one told the Japanese it was considered secure, you know? There was still a bunch of guys, like, down in those tunnels where they just couldn't find them.
Well, what was one of the tenets where it was, like, essentially...
Fight to the last man.
Yeah.
Fight to the last man. Even if there's only one of you left, fight to the last man.
Well, it's like, just to bring up the Dan Carlin episode where he was talking about that one guy, that Japanese soldier who was fighting. I don't remember where, but it's a great episode.
Yeah.
He brings it up at the beginning where he's like, was fighting until like the fucking 70s. Just one soldier out there, I think in like Vietnam or something like that.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I don't remember.
I forget where he was, but yeah.
And they literally had to take his commanding officer out of retirement, bring him in, and be like,
yeah.
Stand down, you know, like, essentially.
Right.
They gave him newspapers, and he's like, it's fake propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
And that existed on Iwo, too. Like, all of that was very similar to Iwo.
Yeah.
This definitely happened here as well.
It's a very Japanese, wartime Japanese way of thinking.
Oh my
like,
yeah.
Very unique, very...
And that's
like,
the thing that we would do. We'd be like, our boys have already invaded the mainland, and we're sticking it to them sideways vaginas you got.
Well, they were like, you're done. It's over. You've surrendered. It's done. You know, and they just didn't believe us. And, I mean...
My favorite propaganda was during Desert Storm. There was like a recording that they would play for American troops, and it was like, "Don't you boys want to go home? You know your wives are having sex with Mel Gibson and Bart Simpson," because they just knew who was famous, but they didn't know the context of it. So they would say Mel Gibson and Bart Simpson, and And
they
it
did
ended up
that
not
here
working
too.
at all.
They dropped leaflets.
Oh, it didn't work?
They dropped leaflets and did things where it's like,
Do the bark.
don't you want to go home?
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to get out of here? Like, that was definitely a psyop that like the Americans would do all and not just this theater, like all over. Like they did it in Vietnam. They did one really crazy one in Vietnam where they played over loudspeakers. I kind of want to do an episode on it of ghosts. So like you'd hear this, oh, I'm a ghost that was killed here. Oh. Yeah, it's super crazy shit. Yeah.
I saw Japanese propaganda of it was like stereotypical Japanese, but it was drawn on the Japanese side, but it was like them just railing blonde chicks.
Nice.
And it was like go home, your wives are getting like fucked by Japanese guys. And it's just a psyop.
Wow.
It's meant
Yeah,
to
it's a
fucking
psyop,
rattle
yeah.
your fucking
Right.
morale,
Yeah,
fuck
yeah.
with your shit. Because
Yeah.
you know it's not really happening,
No.
but what if it is?
Yeah, well, you don't know. You're here.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a foxhole, you know?
Yeah, I watched a whole thing on Discovery Channel years ago about like it was pretty much about like every country's always had wartime propaganda and like psyops,
Yep.
but America's really fucking good
They're
at it.
really good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, by March 25th, 300 Japanese force, they launched a final counterattack into airfield number 2, the one that was furthest away, not the first one, the further one.
Mm-hmm. And not the unmade one, or unfinished one.
No. It basically they launched into like these like Seabees, some army pilots, and Marines of the 5th Pioneer Battalion and the 28th Marines. And basically, like, they fought, like, heavily for, like, 90 minutes and suffered heavy casualties, like 53 killed, 120 wounded. Like, it was quite the counterattack, you know what I mean? So, even in their, like, last starving, hungry days, like, they still had, like, this resolute spirit to, like, fight, you know? It's unmatched by anyone else in the entire war, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The island was again officially declared secure at 9 a.m. on March 26th. Still, there were defenders in there, and how many of them was uncertain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Alan Matt Smith's birthday's coming up.
Yeah,
Month away.
right. And basically,
He's like,
he
I
actually...
want this island taken by my birthday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, 420.
Well, and what he did too is he held back an entire regiment of the 3rd Marines because he was like, I need forces right after this to go into Okinawa, right? So he held back a whole regiment that couldn't like replace and replenish, right? Like his troops. So some say that if he could like cycle out his troops and whatnot as you normally would, then maybe there wouldn't be as many casualties as there were. But he was thinking for the future, right? For Okinawa, right? So that was the thing. So for 3 months, as they're clearing this island, the 147th Marines, actually it may have been Army at this point, they slogged across the island using flamethrowers and grenades and satchel charges to basically dig out and bury the enemy, right? They killed 1,602 Japanese soldiers in small unit actions. And then there's other countless that they sealed in caves. And when they did that, they would pump water, like seawater, in like the tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
That would they mixed with like gasoline and diesel and kerosene and a bunch of shit, and they'd light it on fire. So
Oh, wow.
So you would either drown in there or you'd burn up in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people survived those attacks, man.
Cool.
They survived. Like found like a tiny hole and like burrowed out like a fucking mole.
Wish they didn't.
You know, dude, harrowing stories from like honestly crazy stuff. And like they were still seeing casualties like after it's secure. You know,
Chris's grandpa was the guy who came up with that. He was like, "Let me put down my bugle."
Let me put down my bugle and pour kerosene in it. Maybe. I mean, he would have been there while they were doing that, right?
No, they
Or
were
was he already
left.
gone?
They were well. Let's see. By the
He told the guy on his way out.
26th, they would have no. They left on the 15th. This is like the 26th.
Okay.
They're still sweeping this. So the war, the war was pretty much over for the men of the 14th. right?
Well, it was over in physical, but it wasn't over in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
No. It was over for them physically, yes. Now, there were two guys, Yamakage Kufuku and Matsudo Linsoki, that lasted 4 years without being caught and finally surrendered on January 6th, 1949.
Wow.
4 years. And that basically what that means is that they were in what was left of these tunnels, popping up, like crawling into like American camps, stealing just enough food to where like the Americans wouldn't notice, and then going back. And like they just did that for 4 years.
Jesus Christ.
4
Must have been
years.
so hard not to just slit like one throat.
Dude,
You're
like
I'm gonna turn this around one.
Were they killing people or just?
they were trying to survive.
Yeah.
Just simply trying to survive. Like,
So yeah, they weren't slitting.
One of them even talked about like he got like a bottle of Coca-Cola and like drank it and was like, this is like the best thing I've ever had. And,
Yeah.
and like took like he's like, I couldn't take like a whole case or anything, they would notice. He's like, I took like a couple of bottles to like the guys back at the caves, you know.
Mhm.
And it is some dark shit, you know, like to these guys in the caves, like they're like, if you leave, can't let you back in, you know, and like there's it's a harrowing story. Again, maybe this is a story for a different day, because oh my god, it's brutal.
Well, they also
Save it for spooky season.
They would
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't have had radios.
They did have radios.
So did they know what was going on in the world outside, or
I think
they just was? My point was, I was like, they don't have any connection to the outside. They would just literally be like, we're in these caves. Enemies are on the island. I don't know what the rest of the world
I
is
think
like.
that's pretty much what it is. Like their equipment was damaged. It wasn't really worth touching, you know, like at that point.
Yeah, if they didn't know who won the war or whatever was going on, they could have been like Japan. Like as far as they knew, Japan could have been like completely taken over. You know.
Well, they wouldn't believe it if you told them.
The point being, like, they don't know. It's their reality is now these caves, and then the enemy on the island.
And you fight to the last
nothing
man.
else.
Nothing
else is real. Like nothing else matters.
Did they eventually surrender? Is that how they got
They
home?
eventually did, and that
Smart cookie.
Yeah.
But they were there for 4 years.
4 years. I couldn't. I couldn't imagine that. But like to really put it into perspective. Only 216 out of the 20,000 were taken prisoner. 216. And these guys were wounded and emaciated, the guys that they did take prisoner. Most of them, they wouldn't allow themselves to be taken prisoner.
Yeah.
And these guys were the ones that talked them out, right?
Give me one of those short katana blades. I'm going to show you what I'm made of. Not in the way that you think. I got my own way of doing it. It's pretty gross.
Yeah. And then there was the ghastly trophy hunting, right? This happened a lot in the Korean War as well, because they used Iwo Jima as like a staging ground for a lot of people during the Korean War.
Yeah.
And that's where like American soldiers would take like old skulls. You have the dead Japanese with them. In fact, the Japanese government has like sent out, you know, if you have one of these Japanese skulls from Iwo Jima, please return it. Please return it, because they haven't all made them back, you know, and they're still looking for bodies and whatnot. They've recovered like 10,000, I think, but they're still working to recover bodies. Yeah.
When they get the 20,000th skull back, it'll like pop the achievement.
Dedicated. Yeah, there you go.
So the skull.
It's a diamond. It's like a diamond achievement.
The skull my grandfather left me when he passed. Should I?
Yeah, that needs to be returned, Chris. Yeah.
That's not true.
Or taking gold teeth out of like the skulls of dead Japanese. That was definitely a thing.
The only thing my grandfather left me when he died was that dope buffalo rifle from like the 1800s.
Ooh, nice.
Did I ever show you that?
No.
Oh, it's so cool. It's
That's
like,
dope.
Like,
It's huge.
Whoa, it's a buffalo rifle. It's fucking enormous.
That's dope.
Yeah, I don't know if it works, but I wouldn't shoot it anyway if it did.
Yeah.
I don't know any buffalo.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna shoot the rhinoceroses at the zoo.
Use it for home defense.
Yeah, blow a hole through three walls with it.
Well, my defense, in my defense.
Yeah.
3 guys are entering, and I blew through all 3 of them.
Yeah.
So
It's like the gun in Jumanji.
unfortunately, it was you 3, and I thought you were home invading.
Yeah.
So
It's a bad day to be us.
now it's just me and Zach history. Good thing you were on tour when I murdered the others.
Yeah. The
They wanted
prize.
to record at 4 a.m.
The,
Ski masks.
yeah, we're gonna record at 4 a.m. with ski masks on.
Surprise! It'll be a surprise for Chris.
Yeah, we'll surprise him.
Wouldn't it be funny if I like kick in the door and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking rape you?
There was a fucking buffalo rifle. Loaded, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Oh, just waiting for us.
I'm up every night waiting for somebody.
Yeah.
Give me a fucking reason.
Yeah. He's
Well, I
got.
wish some motherfucker would.
Yeah, he's got like the Champawit, like, hot dog size, like, rounds on this thing.
Yeah.
The Jim Corbett rifle.
Yeah. Every night I stand.
Yeah. Stand watch.
Danny is finally safe to sleep.
Yeah.
I murdered some people now.
Killed a lot of people. But the most prized trophy was the saber. The Japanese officer's saber. That's what everyone wanted.
That's what I would
It's
want.
one of those.
That's
Yeah.
fucking cool as shit.
Yeah. You're not supposed to take that kind of thing anymore, but they did.
You probably weren't then either.
Oh, you can't
Yeah.
even steal sabers.
So woke.
Everyone's so woke.
You
Everyone's
can't even
offended
raid
by
the
all
dead
the-
bodies.
You
You conquered enemies.
You can't even raid the dead bodies of your conquered enemies
Yeah.
anymore. Everybody gets so offended.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? Am I supposed to just give back all the ears I made this necklace out of?
Yeah.
Now, the Japanese combat deaths numbered 3 times the number of American deaths. But uniquely, among Pacific Marine battles, the American total casualties, and that's dead and wounded combined, exceeded those of the Japanese. It's the first time that's ever happened in
So they
Marine Corps
sucked.
history.
I was
It's
kidding.
just they
I was just kidding.
they faced an enemy
This
that
was my
was
grandpa.
dug in. Yeah. Like
Your
People-
grandpa didn't fight hard enough, Chris.
My dad
So I
said
thought
that
about
he
who
he
you
had
were.
experienced situations where my grandfather would interact with other veterans or other Marines
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
Like anytime my grandfather had met other Marines, even younger Marines, like they'd have such reverence for him.
there's a
and they'd be like, oh, what? You were in the 4th Division. They'd be like, gee, you're a fucking hero. That's how they
dude.
would view these.
I mean, keep it. They went down to 50% strength.
So when
that is an alarming.
When I joke, I feel bad. I feel a weird ability to joke because he's my grandfather. But the truth is, like, these people were made of things we could not imagine. Like, they were made of a harder steel.
Well, let's keep in mind, like, Marine training.
Yeah.
Is notoriously hardcore, and let's keep in mind these are normal people, and when shit got that tough, they fell back on their training. Their training is what helped them.
Yeah.
It's not that they were made of tougher stuff back in the day. It's that they were trained. They were trained well.
I guess the truth is, like, when people say
Modern
that,
Marines are
like,
still every bit as tough as the Marines back in the day.
The truth is, well, yeah, and even
Yeah.
if the generation now had to fight a truly formidable enemy and had to do it,
In
I
a
think
world
people
war.
would.
Oh yeah, yeah.
People would become
They become
part of
the
that
yeah, absolutely.
strong steel, and that's really what it
100%.
is. It's like the greatest generation is the greatest generation because of what they had to go through. Not
There was a lot they had to go through too.
it's not. They wouldn't have been that way otherwise, right?
Exactly.
They rose to that occasion, and I think
Yep,
any
yeah.
generation could do that if they had to.
You're 100% correct. I think
people
yeah.
talk about Gen Z and us millennials like that, but like the truth is that's because we didn't have to fight that.
Yeah,
we
and-
didn't have to fight that because these people fought that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Gen Z Marines showing up with their jewel vapes, with
And their
infinities,
pronoun
yeah.
pins.
Here's my pronouns.
Any Gen Z Marine would beat the fuck out of me.
Oh my god, yeah.
Any
Yeah.
Marine.
Yeah.
Period.
My grandpa, if he rose
They're
from the
tough
grave with his
motherfuckers, dude.
fucking
Yeah,
spindly
bro.
bones.
Dude, this is Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
That was their training. That is
I can't
the
even
reality for
Work
him.
out for 30 minutes a day for a week straight.
You could if you had some like
If you
dude
had to.
screaming at you all day
if
and night.
I had to for a month, I'd probably be a changed man.
But I don't, so
yeah.
So fuck it.
Exactly, yeah.
All told, there were 6,102 American casualties. It was the bloodiest battle in Marine Corps history for their casualties.